Or Greg,
Yep.
you vote on that?
You did say you're available if if I set up a dial-in this afternoon for that meeting with.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, I'll do that while we're here.
Okay.
We're recording this now.
And just to clarify, this is a workshop, not a board meeting.
Correct.
Just so for the record.
I don't even know that we need to call him to order. I don't think we need to do any of that.
Yeah.
Nope, don't need to do any of that.
Just start throwing stuff.
All right. Joe, is this the latest and greatest based on your work?
As of yesterday with Tommy, yeah.
Okay.
So, if I can speak from, so the things that are not there yet, first of all, if we did nothing else with this, we could probably reduce assessments by about.
Should have said that before we were recording.
Yeah, well, and that's not fair because you got zero in for capital reserve.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Reserve.
No,
Yeah.
there's three things that are not in there.
Yep.
Like I said, if we did nothing else, I mean, we've had years where we didn't put any money in capital. There's been years where we just didn't. I mean, most years we do, but
Yeah, certainly the last several. Yeah.
yeah. So again, we could reduce assessments fairly significantly, but the ideal thing would be to keep them level, I guess.
Well.
Reduce them if you can, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that. The three things that are not filled in here are we going to take money out of, before I even open this up, put it up here, guys, I can work from this. So, are we going to take money from reserves this year to fund this South Tower elevator project? We did $90,000 last year. This year for that project, for the Central Tower, decision. There's a couple of small things that aren't in here, but that's really the only. Contribution to reserves is the other, the second one. And I said three, didn't I? Mm-hmm. Thought there was two. Oh, yeah, the third thing. Payroll.
Yeah, payroll stuff.
Payroll is set right now as if nothing was going to change. We know that's not the case. We know that's not going to be the case. So that's the payroll discussion that's on the second page. That will necessarily be done in a closed session because it involves
payroll.
People get paid and names and numbers, and that's not for public consumption. So that being said, so I got to log on to the meeting, huh, Gary?
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, thanks for those spreadsheets this morning.
Yeah. I usually try to get those, at least advanced copies of those out long before the morning of the workshop, but this year's been a little weird that way.
No worries, they were plenty early.
Let me see, where's Gary's email here?
The other thing we may want to take a few minutes to talk about at some point today is our, at least a 5-year outlook on our capital improvements, our long-term asset replacement expenditures. There's some money involved and there's some questions involved. And like some things are kind of hardwired, things like the carpet and whatever in the lodge is really judgmental. Is it this year? Is it next year? Is it the year after? So those are things we may want to at least note are on the horizon, and we may or may not get some feedback from owners as the year goes along.
Okay.
Well, Joe's still working. I will say, if anybody did look at the one that's posted on our website, thank you, Gary. That we have a 2018 budget. That's the one we approved last year for this year. Maybe that's the wrong nomenclature, but that's what we did. So that's the 2018 one we did for this year, where Dave and I have done a first draft of the 2019. It's not posted because we need to have this discussion today, but we'll update you a little bit on any capital item that we anticipate being more than $100,000. And we've changed quite a few of them from last year's. We've moved a few forward, several back, and so that will be part of the discussion, I think, before we get to finalizing a decision on reserves.
You want me to switch it over to you, Joe?
Not yet. I'm clearing some things that I don't want people to see.
We have anybody online that's dialed in?
Okay, you can go ahead and switch it now. Dave, there was something that came up last night when I was talking to Tommy. We found out, we determined that under 404, oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. 400, no.
Are you looking for the fines?
Yeah.
No, the
It's
fine.
under 404.
They had been
Yeah,
in,
404, that's what it was.
they had been in 404.
Right,
We didn't have a separate account for them.
right.
We will now.
Yeah.
And we're going to reclassify the fines this year into a new account.
Yeah, so Dave, the question is, that changed your year-to-date figure for what was really maintenance revenue by what, about
$8,600.
$8,600?
That was all fines?
There were
That
fines
was all
that were in
fines.
maintenance revenue.
See, the way the account 400 is handled is that's billed, not collected.
Right.
Right? So, so when we billed the owner of 110 an enormous amount of fines, that all of that billed revenue went into 400. So we pulled it out yesterday. So that's why you're
Those were billed, but they were receivables and never paid.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're writing those off.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have written them. We will be writing them off. So you'll see that later here. But so in 400, the year to date through today, which was about 109,000, is now
404.
huh?
In 404.
In let's say 404.
You said 400.
404 is now 100,427. So your actual went down, and I guess the question for you is, do you want to adjust the budget because of that, or
We probably should. Maybe drop it down 5,000.
okay?
More in line with what we're thinking this year.
So that'll be our first change then.
So 125 becomes 120.
Yes.
So I have to click this share button, Gary.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Good. All right, got it up there. So can you all see that? You guys can't
Yeah.
see it because Tommy's okay. He's got the same dynamic file I do. But, all right. So I'm gonna now change. Thank you. I'm gonna change that to. You think 120, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's $5,000 in revenue we just lost.
And Joe, do you want to address the beginning balance numbers?
Yeah,
Because I had
yeah.
a comment related to your email this morning.
Okay,
You added an amount for internet and telephone that was not previously in the November, December expected expenditures. And that caused me to need to update the spreadsheet that I use to determine our beginning balances. If we don't change what we show as a beginning balance for the 2020 budget for operating, then we've reduced the cushion that you and I discussed yesterday by that same 37,000 or whatever the number was,
okay.
37,350. And so our cushion now is something more like 80 instead of 120.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna surprise him with that until later, but that's okay. So now that that's on the table, see, what Sandy Elliott used to do and what Tommy did this time is produce this, what I call the magic sheet. And what that is you go to our, irrespective of the budget and what we're doing here, which is basically money in, money out for the year. Tommy looks at the balance sheet. He looks at what we have on money on hand in our accounts as of today.
As of yesterday or today.
Today, and then looks at what we've projected on here as our expenditures and receipts for the next 2 months to the year end, and projects what our bank account balances will look like at the end of the year. So I guess operating is now not 220,000, it's more like 180,000.
183.
183, okay. So we have $183,000 in the bank.
Joe, here's an updated, and I've got extra copies if anybody wants to look at it. Didn't know if anybody would care.
So 183,000 in the bank allocated to operating, 87,000 allocated to capital,
Some stack over there.
about 18,000 allocated to the rental program, and then the permanent reserve, the balance of the permanent reserve. So what we always have done with that is taken that and used that as a starting point for money we had, taking out of there, not putting all of it in the budget worksheets, because you got to have something. It's just like, if you think about this as starting a business brand new at the first of the year, you got to have working capital. So we got to have the working capital and spend it. We got to have something in there. So right now we have $80,000 in working capital.
And Joe, maybe an important
Or
reason.
actually almost 100,000, because we've between the operating and capital, we've got about 95, 100,000 that we're not showing on here. That's money in the bank.
And another reason that's significant is because the numbers we have used for assessment fees in this worksheet are the billed amounts per month. And you don't know how quickly or slowly those are going to be collected. So you've got to have some squish in the bank account to allow for that.
And we have always had enough.
Yeah.
Sandy was very attentive to that, and I'm sure Tommy will be as well. If we get into, if it looks like we're getting into a cash flow crunch, we'll be the first to know. So anyway, that we've got that as well. If we choose to use more of that. Right. Sandy always thought Sandy
We're pulling the recycling bins.
Oh, is that what it is?
Sandy always thought that we should start the year with about $50,000 in the bank. Money that was not earmarked to be spent. And so we've got an excess of that right now based on these numbers. So there you go. The beginning operating capital, beginning balance in the operating accounts, we've put 120,000 out of the money that we have. And for capital, we put 75,000 in, leaving some still there as our cushion.
Okay.
We don't have to make this decision now, but the other item that could go towards revenues is our elevator project. If we choose to pull money out of the out of the reserves. Probably leave that decision till later in the day or tomorrow, because I want to go over the reserves with you as well, so you can see where we're at. We ended up spending more out of our reserves this year than we had anticipated. Everybody knows why, because we bought 110. So 400 assessment fees billed to owners. That'll be the last thing we fill in to balance the budget. We've plugged in all the other numbers. Along the way, we may throw a number in there just as a test to see where we're at with other things we've done. We'll do that. Maintenance revenue outside. This is an item that I've discussed at length with Dave. And you heard the sidebar there we just had. Stepping back a second, why does this thing keep telling me I'm muted, Gary? I know I'm muted. I don't need to know every 30 seconds. First column is our budget. Is that shown on the screen? I guess it's not. Okay, good. I keep getting this message up here at the top that says I'm muted.
I didn't mute you.
We can hear you anyway, so.
Yeah, coming loud and clear.
Is there a mute button? I don't.
I may be muted. I may be muted, but Greg and the rest of them can hear me because of the speakers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first column on this, is there anybody that wasn't here last year when we did the budget besides Tommy? It's the same board members, right? Okay, so everybody's familiar with this, I think, or you might dredge it up from memory. So 2019 budget is the first column. Year to date through today is what we've spent so far, or in this case, what we've received so far or billed. What we estimate we'll spend or receive in the next 2 months. Those two columns 2 and 3, add up to column 4, which is what we anticipate the totals will be for 2019. And then from that, we can have discussion about where we should put the budget. Of course, most of these numbers are already filled in this budget column based on discussions I've had with Dave, Heather, Tommy, our insurance agent, other people involved. So back to, okay, so owner fines assessed, the line item that has the question marks where an account number would be. Tommy and I talked about this yesterday, and we decided that we should, in order to keep that from muddying up the waters in account 404, we should establish a separate account, and that way we can track it. So that's what that is. 2019 was obviously a very unusual year because we assessed a whole bunch of fines to one person, one owner. We don't expect that to continue to happen. Ron?
So what's the dollar amount we're writing off?
What's that?
What's the dollar amount we're writing off? Like $1,500, something like that?
No,
On her?
Yeah.
7,000.
7,000. Yeah.
7,700
Oh,
or
they
something
did get that high.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can give you
I don't
specific.
know.
But we haven't written off any of it yet?
It'll
We
all,
usually do
Oh, that's right. We started
it'll all
getting
be, all the
pretty hefty
write-offs will
fine
be
amounts.
done.
I forgot about
All the
that.
write-offs and that sort of, those transactions will be done prior to year end.
We usually post those on
Okay.
December 31st.
We haven't even
Okay.
actually moved the other thing we haven't done yet is actually move the money from reserves
So it's almost all
into capital for the elevator project. We haven't done that yet. I think when, actually, at least we did that yesterday.
Prepared it yesterday.
Did that
like
yesterday, yeah.
Okay. And not to confuse the issue too much, Joe, but we also do charge interest on late
That's
payments.
that's
It's a different
another,
line?
that's another
It is?
line
Okay,
further
thank you.
down.
Yep, that's all I
Yeah.
need to know.
So, I mean, Ron, if you want to chime in, do you think, you know what kind of fines we assess? Do you think $1,000 annually is a good number, or do you think it should be different than that?
1,000.
What have we done historically?
Not a lot,
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
a few $100
I mean, I
here
think
and
this
there.
is the first time we've ever had somebody that, really
This is one of those
blew
things
up
where
the
we'll,
warnings and didn't pay attention.
this is one of those things where we'll stick a number in there and
what it is, right?
Next year at this time, we'll reevaluate it.
That's a good place to start, I think.
Hmm?
I think that's a good number to start with.
Owner storage unit rental 408. That's a pretty easy one. We must have. Do we have any available units, Gary?
Yeah, there are two that just came up.
Okay.
John Bowen, actually the second one hasn't come up. It's
Have we had vacancies throughout the year, like somebody relinquishes it and then it takes
for a month here and there?
So that's maybe why we didn't reach the budget.
We are gonna lose the two, rentals that we rented to DMR. They gave those back November 1st, and we probably aren't gonna rent those rooms to anybody else, so.
That's commercial space rental.
The storage unit is?
That's a further down. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, what were they?
This is owner storage unit rentals only, 408.
Okay.
The closets that we rented to DMR, that's in account 412.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's already been adjusted for that. Also, it's been adjusted up for rental revenue on unit 110, but we're not there yet. 409, sale of DVRs to owners. We budgeted $18,000, but that was money that was all collected, and most all of it was collected in 2018 when we were getting ready for the turn on of the Groove DirecTV system. And so that while we budgeted that last year at this time, it was shortly thereafter that the Gary billed the owners, or Elisa billed the owners for the DVRs that were ordered, and that revenue was realized then. So right now we have about 20 of these left, Gary?
About that, yeah.
Yeah. And we sell them for $125 a piece. And so as new owners come in and they find out what we've got and what our systems are, and they find out, oh, I can get a DVR. What do I need to do to get one? Give me $125 and you got one. And so we budgeted for 4 of those in the coming year.
What happens when we run out of those? Is it something we just order directly from the individual owners or from Groove, or do we get another
at that point
inventory?
Well, we only got an allocation at a special price. That's why we're able to sell them for $125.
Right. Okay.
When those run out, because that's what we bought them for. When those run out, I'm sorry. Let me put my phone outside.
So reminding you to shave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Scott, I think they were like 159 or something once this initial, and that was
Sorry,
that was quoted a year
I
ago.
gotta take this call.
Okay.
Probably when we
Yeah.
ride a load too.
Yes, it was a volume discount. And it was part of the contracts.
I love numbers.
Very well be
Say it again.
175.
No. I don't remember it. Sorry. Name and number? I've forgotten it. Joseph Carey, C-A-R. That was, the alarm went off at my house in Scottsdale, and most of the time this is just one of the sensors goes bad. So I don't know what it is. If they send the police out there, I'm gonna get, it's a false alarm, I'm gonna get fined because I already had one of those this year. Oh well, let's see what happens. I may get another call, I apologize. So that's the sale of the DVRs. My wife, actually it was probably my wife set the alarm off. You know what? There we go. Sorry, my head went somewhere else. So commercial space rental. So this all changed this year in a lot of ways. We had budgeted $4,000 last year, and that was mostly for the hairdresser who rents the space up behind the pool, and the DMR housekeeping closets. But now we're renting out Unit 110 since we took possession of that one, and that's at $850 a month. So calculating that being added, the DMR is no longer managing units here. Did everybody know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, they gave us. When did they give us notice that they were?
It was about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, that the few units they had, they were releasing those back to the owners, and the owners could do whatever they wanted. DMR didn't want to participate there anymore. They only had how many? I mean,
6,
I
I
think at
think.
the end, yeah, 6 or 7.
yeah, single digits. They had been declining. So we don't have that anymore, and we do have the $850 a month from 110. So between the hairdresser and Unit 110, we budgeted $11,200. Service and collection fees. This is what Eric questioned a little bit ago. Had quite a bit of that. Usually we have a split. Sometimes owners will ignore these. They'll get their invoices, and they'll pay their regular amount and then not pay the interest. You know, they got a problem with that. They don't want to pay the interest. Some owners will pay it. Eventually, it gets paid if the owner sells the unit. If we file a lien, the interest and late charges are folded into that, and they end up paying it anyway. So we did collect quite a bit of it this year, almost $15,000. So we upped the budget on that from 10 to 12 for next year.
Do we want to up it though? Because we had one particular owner, and there was a big chunk of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure, we can back
I
it
don't know
off.
if we need to. I don't know. I don't know what historically that's been. I mean, if you think that's logical, then
Yeah, Tommy, is that billed or collected?
That is billed. Collected was actually more like 19,000 because we collected quite a bit. And I don't know
no. I thought okay. So
necessarily who it was. We collected quite a bit from.
Well, from previous years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, when
Well, the build, I don't. Leave it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I was just more worried about collecting. The number that we collected this year was, I think, a little high.
I don't tend to, when an owner gets $50, $75, $100 in these kind of fees on their account, and that's all they're late with, they're on time with everything else, I typically don't chase them.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. I mean, I chase the owners I chase the few owners who actually don't pay their quarterly dues and get behind by 3 months or 6 months, and then, get after them. So what usually happens is these end up getting paid when the unit is sold.
Sold, right?
Yeah. They always say they sit on the account, but some pay it, some do, but some don't. Fines are that way too. Some people will get fined and they'll just leave it there. I mean, who's the guy? You don't have to mention his name, Gary. You know who he is. He's in the lodge.
Yeah.
And we fined him. God, it's been 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
He never pays it.
4 years ago.
I
5
think
years
it was
ago.
quite a
Yeah.
while ago.
And it's been sitting on his account all that time.
Yeah.
And if you chase him about it, he just gets indignant. He comes down and he yells at everybody in the maintenance office, and it's just not worth bothering with.
Getting used to that.
Yeah. Transfer fees. We've, why is that?
It's way off.
That number's wrong.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Can you check that, Tommy?
We've got hell of a lot of sales this year.
I think a record number
Right.
certainly in my tenure.
Yeah, no, that number's wrong. Something got,
Maybe it's 12.
it might be, it very well might be.
While he's digging for that, Joe, what happens when we have a owner who has does damage and it's an insurable and we pay, we may do some repairs and they owe us some money? Where does that show up as revenue, or does it? Because we've had, unfortunately, 2 or 3 or 4 of these in the last 3 years, I think.
Owner does damage. I guess that would be in 400. If it's billed on their statement, it would show up in 400.
Okay, well, yeah, so would fines, I guess, technically then. But we show those separately.
Joe, tell me what number we're looking for here.
420.
Account 420.
And so I've got 2368 year to date on the spreadsheet.
That can't be right.
Yeah, but we've had so many sales.
Can you check
I've
that?
got 15,600 in QuickBooks.
That's,
So I think we might have mixed up mailbox and transfer.
we might have.
Okay.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did. That's exactly right.
That makes
Yeah.
more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, it couldn't be an odd number.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. So,
Actually, that's not quite it either. The 2,368, I don't have anything on the P&L for mailboxes. The 2,368 is owner legal expenses. Owner's reimbursing.
oh, we removed that. We removed that line. It was something somebody asked about because we had all those legal fees with, you know who?
The election.
Yeah.
The-
So the mailbox assessments, what does that show in 424?
I don't have anything in 424 this year.
Haven't we finished all that?
I think so.
I think those are gone.
Yeah, well, that's why I said it's getting removed. Yeah.
So what we really need to do is change the line that says 424 mailbox assessments. It needs to say 417 owner legal expenses.
No, we're totally removing that line.
Both lines.
Well, we do have expenditure, I'm sorry.
Oh,
we do have
you want it in there for reference?
We do have revenues in 417 legal expenses in 2019,
Okay. Wasn't much, right?
2,368.
Yeah, that was what,
Yeah.
you know who actually paid
Yeah,
after we settled with them.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it's what's the account number?
417.
I'm not sure how that got lost there.
No, the two accounts are right next to each other numerically, so.
Yeah.
Bring that switch. The account list.
Okay.
And we didn't budget anything for that, right? No. What was the actual again?
2,368.
$2,000. 2368. Okay. And we're going to remove that line. We're not going to budget for it next year.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Doesn't, do we have any estimates on transfer fees for the rest of the year? I thought.
That's the 1,200 that's in there.
November, December.
I see, you look up there.
I think it's my eyeballs not aligning correctly.
Okay.
420.
Okay, there is 1,200. I'm sorry. I was looking at
That's
that.
saying 4 more closings
Yeah. Okay.
between now and the end of the
Yeah,
year.
she said
Could be
she had
more
some
than
coming.
that. Could be more than that.
So you have now a line for account 420, which is transfer fees, right?
Yes.
And what was its budget in 2019? Do you have
10,000.
It was 10,000. And we've got 15,600 year to date, budgeted 1,200. or expecting 1,200 in November and December
Right,
for a total year-end 16.8.
Yeah.
Okay. And do we have a 2020?
12,000.
She only got 8 loan units listed. Or
Well,
she's got 8 units, yeah. I think that's what she said
I
in
wonder,
inventory.
that
That could come
I mean,
down, I would think.
well, the thing is, it's been, even with the low inventory, the inventory's been relatively low the last 2 years, and we still consistently turn 10% of the property a year.
Okay, well, I just know she said yesterday it's the lowest it's been.
Does she think next year is going to be a soft year because of inventory? Because people put them on the market all the time.
Yeah.
But the thing is, people put them on the market and they sell. Stuff doesn't stay on the market very long anymore, right?
Quick turnaround.
Well, it's not a game changing number either way, so.
No.
And this is November 1st, so the hot season has ended and we're just now entering the time of year when I would guess more people are listing than selling, but so inventory is probably really low right now. I
Yeah,
would think.
she said it's low it's ever been. I think she said
Just
8
on the,
properties.
thinking through the calendar.
Yeah. Okay.
Our local trends.
When I talked to her last week, I think there were 8. And she said anything that's been relatively recently remodeled will only be on the market about a week.
Remember a couple of years ago? You couldn't move them fast enough.
There are at least 2 closings that are coming up in the next 2 weeks. So,
Wow, that's good.
Scott, he did say, yes, it does notify you on the app.
That's cool.
Okay, so Tommy, right now we've got, just to make sure we've got these ordered properly, it's 412, 416, 417, 420, 424.
There shouldn't be a 424. Laundry is the next one I've got after transfer fees, 420, and then 428 laundry.
Yeah, because you said.
Well, there was a mailbox assessments,
We had no revenue.
right, but it's.
So it's a blank line if it's there.
It's there, but
Okay.
it's gonna be removed, but
Yeah.
there was a budget.
Oh, I see. That's where the $5,000 budget was on mailbox assessments, and we received nothing.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because that was all, again, that was something that was all collected in 2018. 428 laundry machine revenue, that's not, there's gotta be some year to date there.
Let me look.
I'll bet it's the
5307 year
That's
to
the
date.
5307 that got moved down to, everything got bumped down.
Oh, and then we have no telephone revenue.
Right.
So I'm sorry, 5307 is what? You lost me there.
Is account
That's laundry
428
machine.
laundry
It's just off the
machines?
line.
Okay.
Account 432 telephones is 0. All the way across the board, it's 0.
Yeah, we stopped billing for, long distance calls, but because it became so insignificant.
Right.
And with our new telephone system, domestic long distance is included. So there won't be any. All right. Vending machines, pretty straightforward there. Same budget for next year. That's the soda machines and the laundry soap machines and stuff like that. Interest income, this is just the interest we get on our accounts at
Operating and capital.
Alpine
cash.
Bank, which is
Negligible.
basically nothing. It's negligible. So we're not even going to track it anymore. We're going to take it
Well, we'll continue to record it in the P&Ls, but.
well, it'll be there, but
There's no need to budget for $5.
no need to budget for it.
Makes you wonder why you want to keep a bunch of your balances there. There's got to be a money market out there somewhere.
Okay, so that's the revenues.
Standard.
Yeah, and the budgeted revenues for next year look pretty low compared to estimated for this year because we haven't filled in two major items up there yet, the amount we might draw from reserves and the owner assessments, which again we put in towards the end of the day. I'm sorry, I'm having to communicate with my wife about this alarm. I'm sure she tripped it accidentally.
Jerry, you got an early start this morning.
Sorry about that. Okay, so administrative expenses. Insurance. So I've had quite a few conversations with Jennifer Wade at American Family. There were two factors hitting our insurance rates this year. One was the 416 fire last year, and the other was the lawsuit we had with the person who lived with an owner up in High Point that slipped on the ice and got poked in the eye with a snow stake, or poked herself in the eye with a snow stake. I think y'all heard what happened there, right? That was settled out of court. She got a settlement. So the bottom line is you can see the note I put in up there that our property insurance, there was other factors involved as well. I'm getting a sense that with this American Family agent that she is much more attentive to our policies and what's in them, and just being a good agent than Chris McClure was. I think he was a little loosey-goosey, and when he originally wrote our policies, Gary actually picked up on this. All of our buildings were designated as having been built in 1981. Was it 81 or 84?
So I don't recall exactly.
It was into the 80s anyway.
It was into the 80s, yeah.
And we all know that this building and Pinecone and Gamble Oak were all built in the early to mid 70s. So that has been adjusted. Also, she asked me what the age of our roofs was, and apparently that wasn't correct in the policy. So that got corrected. So our policy went from, I think it was 82,000 last year. It got adjusted up to 92,000 with all those changes. And then she went back and did some things with her underwriter and got it down to, no, that's wrong. It went up to 87. And then with the adjustment for the years built and the roof age, it went up to 92. Now she's still working on with her underwriter trying to make some more adjustments. And I haven't heard, I haven't gotten anything back from her. So I think we need to budget what the latest numbers are. So the property insurance is 92,285 for this year, for next year. Our D&O is 5702. That hasn't changed. slight increase in our liability, and crime and fidelity, no change, 948. So that all totals up to the figure you see there. So we had a pretty significant increase, like 10% overall on our insurance package. Again, she's taken a look at it. I got an email from her yesterday. She asked me some more questions, answered those, and she's going to see what she can do about paring it down a little bit. Accounting, Tommy asked for a slight increase, $1,200 a year, citing staff salary increases.
It's 2%.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do for my folks, including Elisa this year.
Assessment fees uncollectible. Basically, that's pretty much what we're going to write off is all of what the fines and maintenance charges that the owner of 110 accumulated while she was here. Legal fees, broke the bank. Here's why. You can see the list. Can you see it?
Yeah, I'm just looking here because I can't really see it the angle.
I'll read it off. We had the Yellow Carrot lease termination. We had all the activity with Unit 110. We had the Glacier land swap. We had the MOU we worked out with Glacier. We had the Cedar Networks contract. And there was some billing dispute problems with Groove and their company that manages their receivables, which still having problems with them. What an outfit. And then the DCCR's amendment that we just completed. So all of those, plus all of the routine stuff, resulted in a pretty hefty legal bill for the year. But all that said, I think that was an unusual year, and I think we should leave our legal fees budget the same for this year as it was last year. Director's expenses, thought I was going to adjust this for, yeah, I didn't adjust this yet. Okay, I got everybody's estimates for their so about that should be about. I'm going to change that to about $2,000 from $3,000 for in column 3 there. So we're ending up under budget on director's expenses. Right at $10,000 for the year, and I put in a number, dropped the budget from 12.5 down to 11. You guys have any? Want to talk about that at all? Does that sound reasonable?
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah. That'll work.
We will never vary by that much anyway. So
yeah. Well, we've got more. We seem to have. There seems to be a trend now towards more board members participating online rather than coming here for the meetings. So if that continues, I think we should always try to have at least a quorum in the room.
No, it's
which is what we have today.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna close my email account right now because it keeps popping up there. All right. Okay. Let's see, where was it? Legal fees, director's expenses, auditing, consulting fees. We're going to have an audit in 2019, and of course the rest of that is yours truly. Supplies and printing. This is on our accountant's deal. Raising that from 1,800 budget to 2,500 budget based on expenditures this year.
Joe, real quick, back one line, 524, does that also include the water consultant?
No. Well, no, I don't know. I don't,
Mr. Harris?
Tommy,
Should.
can you look at that and see if there's anything in there besides
Because I'll be
myself
watching
and
them.
Todd Beckstead?
And I wonder if we need to put a little bit more in there because we're going to need him.
Harris Water Engineering.
Is that in there too?
It's only $600 and something dollars. No, there's another one for $1,200. So $1,875 total. So,
Okay, so 10% is not that much more.
No.
Okay. Just
Actually, it looks to me like there is some money in there that, because what's,
there are two other small transactions that net out to about $250 that I see that we need to reclassify.
see, because I'm 30 and the audit will be what, 10? It's 10 when it's an audit and 5 when it's a review, right? Or is it
That
8
seems
and 5?
right. I'll have
Yeah.
to go back and look at a previous year to find. It was,
So maybe I already did that, Eric.
so Todd was 4725.
Yeah, this year.
In 2019.
Right.
And
And that pretty much almost doubles for a full audit.
And 9,500
Yeah.
the previous year.
Yeah,
The
so
audit.
there is about a $5,000 cushion in there, Eric,
Okay.
for other consulting.
okay.
I kind of look at that as we look at our legal, we don't know until we get there.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Okay, annual meeting. I thought we did pretty good this year, given that we kind of went a little overboard on the food, but I think with going outside and catering it ourselves instead of Yellow Carrot, I think we saved money. I think we spent way too much money on food when we had for the annual meeting when we were doing it through Yellow Carrot. But I just left the budget at 7,500. It was close there, but not quite there. Web services, Gary, I meant to ask you about this. And I'm not going to put you on the spot, and it's a small number, but I need to figure out what we got left to spend on Socorro and any of those other, the SurveyMonkey, GoDaddy.
What we have left to spend this year?
This year, yeah.
That's in a different item. I think we put that in our item.
Oh, is it? Oh, is that? Okay, so this is just web services.
Yeah,
this
we
is
did
just
that in operations.
This is just GoToMeeting subscription, SurveyMonkey subscription, GoDaddy, all that. Do we have any bills coming up on any of those?
We have a.
I think the SurveyMonkey renewal usually comes.
I don't get that.
I know. I've been meaning to get that over to you. I keep getting it.
We have the renewal of the Office 365 and the emails coming up in 10 days, I think. I think it's the 10th. And there's 5 of those at.
We get the Office 365 through SurveyMonkey, right? I mean, through GoDaddy, right?
GoDaddy, yeah.
The last payment to SurveyMonkey was in January of 19 for $360. So it was paid at the beginning of this.
Okay, so it's at the beginning of the year.
I don't think we've used it
We haven't used it
at all
much.
this year. I know we just did that one recently for the general store, but was that ours set up or was that hers?
Yeah, it was hers, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, we need to keep it because invariably we'll find
It
a way
costs-
to use it again.
It costs $200 a year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah. So if you want to if you want to throw a number at that,
Yeah, the 5 Office 365 and email accounts that are coming up are $59.95. It's $60 a piece, and there's 5 of them.
so $300,
$300 is going to be due in something like 10 days.
and that's the only thing we're probably going to have before the end of the year.
I believe so.
All right. Well, that puts us right close to almost to budget, not quite, but
In the ballpark.
so we'll just leave the budget where it is. Okay. Payroll processing. This is the payroll department downtown. It's a contract service we use with them to pay all the government taxes and cut the paychecks and all that stuff. So leaving that way it is. Actually, we cut it down to 3,000. It's like we over budgeted a little bit. Property taxes, pretty straightforward, leaving that where it is. Front desk funding, this is ported over from the rental program. That has gone up, and we'll talk about that when we get over to the front desk and rental program sheet. Okay, next page. We'll get into all of the meaty stuff. So account 612 is our building maintenance. We budgeted 100. We're anticipating spending 115. So we're budgeting that for next year, 115. Anytime anybody wants to interrupt, question, discuss, do it. Otherwise, I'll just keep moving. 616, snow removal. Everybody knows what happened there. We broke the bank. Heavy snows. Spent almost double the budget. We've always kind of taken the position that we use a 5-year average because last year was an anomaly. Dave actually thinks we could take this down to 70K and still be all right. So there's a discussion point if you want to. We kind of said 75, hoping maybe hoping for a good snow year this year. If you want to knock that down to 70, we can do it. I doubt we're going to have another snow year like we had last year. Those don't happen very often. Any discussion? Leave it alone. Drop it down.
I just leave it as is for now.
Yeah,
Let's
I'd say
see how the numbers play out in the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the one I'd be more interested in is the 13,000 for November, December. Is that kind of a historical seat of the pants kind of? Okay.
Historical. See, yeah, I did go back 5-6 years and to come up with both of those numbers.
Yeah. I don't wish it to be a lower number in some respects, but I wouldn't mind it being less in some others.
It's always a good news, bad news situation there. Yep.
Need more snow, but cheaper plow drivers.
Yeah. Or pay them in January. I could.
All right, later for your checks. Just get to work.
I always remember, coming up here on ski trips, it's like, if the roads are bad, if the driving's bad, the skiing's going to be good. 620 roof and ceiling repairs. Dave thinks we're going to spend pretty much the whole budget, so we put it in at that and budgeted the same amount for next year. Grounds, this is mostly our summertime contract materials, plants. What else is in there, Dave?
Equipment repairs,
Equipment repairs.
replacement.
Yeah,
Taryn's not in there. She's in payroll.
she's in payroll.
But
Mike, everybody knows who Mike is. Drove a big, great pickup truck around during the summer. He was in here as a contract employee. He is gone. He's not coming back. He's doing different things. Not sure how we're going to handle that this next year. We may hire another contract employee. We may think about hiring a temporary hand for the summer and put them on the payroll. Right now, that amount is in this budget line item to hire a contract employee. So we're covered in the budget either way. We just may have to shuffle things around depending on what kind of a decision we make next year as the summer season approaches.
and it did bump up. And the biggest reason it took it up is been dissatisfied over the last couple of years with the sprinkler systems just haven't been between the lower pressure they're dealing with, the plants growing up around them, and the amount of time they've had to spend on them. we've been going backwards on the lawn part of it, so.
Don't forget about Ashley burning them down.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, if you live in Pinecone, you know that Pinecone sprinklers just, because of the lower water pressures we're getting from Glacier now, the lawn sprinklers look like they're taking a pee. That's all it is. I mean, they're not atomized. They're not, yeah. The lawns just aren't getting watered, and they showed it this summer. And Dave was even talking about maybe we want to hire somebody who has good experience with irrigation systems. And, maybe, try to get that right next year.
Are there some kind of intervening pumps or anything like that we can put in to boost the pressure to the?
I mean, I'm sure there are, but we don't have anything like that. It'd be pretty expensive to.
Many of the heads are clogged, the screens are clogged. I think the first thing to do is to put new equipment in and see how well it works, and then we may very well need to look at something more intensive. But
And
as
they
Joe
go through at the
says,
start of the season and pull them and clean them. The valves get clogged. The hard waters, in addition to everything else, makes it tough. So it's just, I mean, they work hard at it. It's not for lack of effort. It's just we need more man hours put towards it to get what we want.
Well, and I've been personally witnessed, one situation where we wanted to get the spray pattern right. The thing was so decrepit that frankly, Taryn couldn't make the adjustment. She just kept whining, just never get that thing to set so that we got the right spray pattern. So some of them just need to be replaced. The whole thing needs to be replaced. But so this does include some money for some labor and some equipment for the irrigation property wide.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay, window washing, again, pretty straightforward. Are we doing that once a year or twice a year now?
Once.
Just once?
Yeah.
In the fall, right? Or in the spring?
In the spring.
In the spring.
Spring and early summer.
Yeah. High Point exterior maintenance. These next 4 out of the 5 line items are all about keeping up after we did all our expensive remodels, is keeping the buildings up, keeping the stain fresh looking, keeping the railings painted, keeping everything looking good. And so we're budgeting pretty much the same amount in each area each year, and we're spending it because we're committed to keeping the buildings looking good and not letting them get tired looking. So that covers 637, 38, 39, and 41. Fire sprinklers and extinguishers, 640. We've been budgeting higher on that than we had in the past for about the last, this will be the 3rd year coming, right, Dave?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And the reason for that was we had been hearing, been told that new testing was going to have to be done where they were actually going to pull these sprinkler heads, shut down the system, pull the sprinkler head, take it to a lab, test it, and then put it back. And we hadn't really gotten a handle on when that was going to happen. We kept being told it was going to happen, nor could we get a handle on how extensive that testing was going to be. Like, were they going to pull one per unit, pull a sample per building? Anyway, Dave's been communicating with, is it the fire department or the?
No, we go through Durango Fire Sprinkler.
He's been communicating with Durango Fire Sprinkler, and now we think we have a handle on what it's going to be, and it will happen next year. That's what we're being told, right?
Yeah. What makes it tough is it went into the code a few years ago, but the code always defers to the local agency, so it was up to them. And by the strict reading of it, we'd have to do 3,596 heads a year. And so that was obviously not practical. So they've been talking with the fire department, got it down to something more reasonable. And so it's going to be, I think it's around 100 heads once every 5 years.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's once every 5 years. So we'll budget the 34,000 this year, but next year and for the 3 successive years after that, we'll only budget 20,000, which because they'll only do destructive testing once every 5 years. already talked about 641, 648 elevator maintenance. Pretty straightforward. This is a contract we have with Tyson Krupp, and it's fairly predictable depending on, do we pay extra for parts, or is that what makes it variable, or is it?
No, it's if we have stuff that's outside their warranty or their contract, maintenance contract, then we have to pay additional.
Yeah.
Or if we need it, if it happens on Christmas Eve, and we have to get it fixed, we pay a premium. So we never know when those are going to happen.
The next item, question marks under the account number, communication systems maintenance. Dave and I talked about this. We have the contracts that are now fully in effect with both Groove for satellite TV, DirecTV, and with Cedar Networks for our internet and phones. And that's for the service itself. I've had discussions with Rich Van Patten at DirecTV regarding whether or not we want to entertain having a maintenance agreement with them. I got a bid on that from them finally. We had one instance this year up in High Point where a supposed lightning strike, we're still not sure that's what happened, underneath the buildings caused the coax cable to melt. And it took out, how many buildings lost their?
Just one.
So it was just one building, and several units within that building lost their TV. And we called Groove. This was not covered under warranty because it's considered an act of God. And so they came and they fixed it, and it cost us about $1,500 to have them come and fix that. Whether or not we could have had Cody fix it if he, was capable of doing that is a question. We think we have enough expertise and experience with Cody in the maintenance department to, bless you, Jerry, to handle a lot of the routine stuff. The maintenance contract had different levels, and level 1 was over 15% of the units lost service, and then they respond by phone within an hour, and they have somebody on site within 24 hours if that's what it takes. And then there's levels under that. If you have less than 15%, it's a longer response time. And then if it's 1 or 2 units, it's even a longer response time. The cost of that contract is about $15,000 annually. Dave and I talked about it, and we think we can beat that number with in-house. And for the few incidents that we might have to call Groove on and just pay out of pocket for their service, we're gonna roll the dice and not go with the maintenance contract and just budget for next year $5,000 on that.
And maybe as new as the system is, maintenance should be a.
Yeah.
A lot of it's resets and user error.
Yeah. And a lot of that Gary and Cody can take care of. Sure. I mean,
So do we get billed, like when we have an owner, like we did last week, raising hell, and we tell it to call, you have it on the website to call, whatever the number is, call Groove. We don't get billed when that happens?
We don't get billed for phone calls.
No, we do not.
No. Okay. I've been on the phone with them several times because I had issues with my NFL Sunday ticket not coming on. Finally got it fixed. But yeah, they don't charge us for it. What they're going to charge us for is when they have to come out and actually do some work.
And especially the one time they've had to do that, it wouldn't be covered if we paid the $15,000.
Right. That would not have been covered.
That makes sense.
A little bit off the beaten track, but do you know what the folks in Glacier are doing? Since those are now all individual homeowner contracts with.
No idea.
I wonder if they're offering a service maintenance program for their homeowners back there. They've got some
Don't think
IT
of-
people.
Norm
Norm
might, Norm Pope might know something about that.
Might be worth a call to Norm. That might be another resource for us rather
They're
than.
not contracted with Groove, right? They go
No.
straight
No,
to
they
DirecTV or.
And it would be individual
Dish or whatever,
homeowners.
yeah.
And so I'm just wondering if Norm.
Well, see, that's the key here.
Yeah.
An individual homeowner, it's cost effective. Because I know down in Phoenix, I have Cox Communications, and I pay $1.50 a month to be on the system where if there's a problem with a splitter or something like that that's buried up in my attic, they come and fix it.
Yeah.
I don't have to pay for it. But the way Groove wanted to charge us for this was $3 per unit per month.
So just one question, do we have any, if we're doing the work, is there any risk of invalidating any kind of warranty or anything else that we have?
Well, our warranty with Groove is
It was only a year anyway?
it's got about 2 months left.
Okay, so I guess that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course we don't have any experience yet with. We have limited experience so far with Cedar, and the only problems we've had with Cedar so far, once the startup issues got taken care of and somebody figured out, how they have to set it up. The only real problems we've had with them on property are these issues with people not being able to connect their printers and other online device, wireless thermostats, things like that. And I think we're trying to get that figured out, right?
Yeah, the thermostat issue was resolved with one owner when they actually went and got a different make and model of thermostat.
Oh, is that right?
So that got fixed. And then there's a workaround where if we plug in their old router, the printer, the thermostat, or whatever recognizes that router, and so it can operate that way. However, Cedar Networks or Norm Pope actually told me that may not work for a long time. He said usually something like that works for a week, and then there's a conflict between the router and the access point. So I'm still in contact with Jenny Wan about trying to find a fix
I had
for
to
all
buy a
that.
cable, printer cable.
For your printer. Well, my printer's direct connected. It sits in the room
Yeah,
right
I
next
mean,
to
it
my
wasn't a
computer.
big deal.
Yeah.
Mine wouldn't work with the old router either,
Well, and
With the old router or with the new access point?
both.
Both. So it's the printer probably. Sometimes some printers have issues. They say they're Wi-Fi, but they're flaky.
well, there's different types of Wi-Fi, or different
Yeah.
signals, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we won't know about those issues till we discover them, right?
Yeah.
When somebody gets here, plugs in,
Yeah.
tries to adjust their thermostat,
Right.
whatever the case may be, that's when we'll find out about it.
Yeah.
And the other thing we can keep in mind is DirecTV or Dish, I mean, they outsource to subcontractors anyway, so there's certainly people here locally that if we needed subcontractors to come up, we could probably find them if Cody had problems or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's somebody here that DirecTV hires to do the work.
Well, what I'm hearing from Dave is Cody's pretty good at handling a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, and he's only gonna get better the more experience he has. He's a good kid. He learns fast, and so
And the deal in High Point, he was with them.
yeah. So he watched what they were doing, and
They started up on top of the building.
yeah. So if this happens again, maybe he can handle it. Go out and buy some cable and figure it out. And then the only other problems we've had with Cedar really haven't been Cedar issues. They've been CenturyLink issues.
Yeah.
Something goes out down the line and they work to get it fixed. But the uptime, I think, has been pretty darn good. Yeah. So, 652, computer, copier, and office supplies. This is where the Securo contract is. And by the way, that's split between half and half between the office, between this account and the equivalent front desk account. Okay. So we spent a little less on that. Decided to take the budget down a little bit. See what happens this year. Energy monitoring and alarms. We're spending quite a bit under budget this year, although we still think we have some replacing of alarms to do in coming up. Dave, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, we're behind on testing on the smoke alarms. Like anything, once you start testing things, you find problems. So we're budgeting for more alarms as the testing goes through.
Cell phone, this is the employees' business phones. That's pretty straightforward. Fogged windows, we do as many as we can with the $10,000 budget each year, and we keep on keeping on with that. Lodge janitorial and cleaning, this is going to go away. This will actually, it won't go away, but it'll be reduced to just the shampooing the carpets and cleaning that we have to do with outside sources. Diane Embry, who was in this account previously as a contractor, is now on the payroll.
I wasn't aware of that.
She does the lodge housekeeping, works about what?
She works 3 days a week, about
3 days.
4 hours a day.
Yeah. Personnel expenses will defer to the closed session on that. Utilities, water and sewer. Well, okay, there we go. So I think I put out a communication to the board a couple of weeks ago. That after tracking the billings from Elbert Creek Water Company from April to date, I'm able to approximate that 1 year's worth of billing at those rates would result in, and the consumption that we've experienced this year, making some assumptions for the months that we don't have actual billing from them, which would be now through March. Heather was, unbeknownst to her, that listing of the occupancies, average occupancies, all occupancies, not just rentals, for each month of the year was actually pretty helpful with that, because I could look at the occupancy, compare that to the month's billing,
Right.
and then make an assumption on the months that we don't have the actual data on. So that's where I came up with that 320,000, which is considerably less than what we've been budgeting in previous years. 416,000 was the budget for this year. So again, and that just further proves that we've been paying too much for water, right, Jerry? Big nods are going on there. So I just arbitrarily took our current year's expenses, and remember, January, February, and March were at the old fixed rate of $34,000 a month. We have not hit that level. The highest we got in the summer with irrigation was, I think, July or August, and it got up to 32,000. It's considerably lower when you drop the irrigation out of it. So I took the 320 and just kicked it up by 5% arbitrarily, and that's where the 336. That number, I think, is up for discussion, and we should probably talk more about it and decide where we want to go. Maybe after we have the meeting with Jim Goodman this afternoon, we can know a little better what to do with that. Satellite TV. We're on Groove. It's a fixed monthly amount, $10,057.12. That divides out to $30.02 per month per household. I had the question maintenance agreement. I think we pretty much decided we're not going to do that. So, and that would have been added into that other account anyway.
Joe, as I recall, the Sunday ticket was complimentary the first year, but they reserved the right to charge for it in year 2. What's the status there?
We paid. Well, of course, we had to pay for this year. Last year was complimentary, even though we only got about a month and
2
a half
months,
of it. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
rascals.
but here, so Gary gets this bill in the mail. When was this? Several months ago, right,
A couple
Gary?
of months ago, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was a bill for $99 for NFL Sunday ticket. So I called Rich Van Patten. I said, Rich, what is this? I thought we had this, because they had talked about it was going to cost us an extra $500 a year. So he said, DirecTV always puts out a promotional deal, and if you buy it ahead of time, it's only $99. I told Gary, I said, send the bill to Elise and get it paid.
All right. Okay.
And they still shut us off for one
For one
Sunday.
week, yeah, that one Sunday. Well, I found out why that. Well, the first Sunday it was on, remember?
Yeah.
And you know why that was? Because they turned the first Sunday on for everybody as a
Right.
teaser.
It's a teaser.
And then now you get it, and then when it goes off the next week, well, I thought it. Well, you're not paying for it. Would you like to pay for it?
Do we know has any owner opted to expand their package? Anybody signed up for baseball or opera or whatever? I don't know.
Well, you Brian Martinez asked about that before the baseball season, and he wanted to know, could we get MLB Network? Well, unfortunately, irrespective of what Groove had told us previously,
Right.
this is a hospitality system. They can't individually upgrade.
One for all and all for one.
One for all and all for one.
Okay.
And the MLB Network package, we could get the MLB Network package, which basically is, news, information, stories, and then selected games.
Mhm.
But the equivalent to the NFL Sunday ticket for Major League Baseball, which gets you all the games, all your out-of-market games, we couldn't get that if we wanted it.
We
for some
can't add
reason.
it at this point, even if we were willing to pay
Right. We can
$5 a month for
we
every.
can get MLB Network,
Okay.
but it's expensive. I
Yeah.
think it was like I think it was going to be about $5 or $6 more per household.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
my recollection.
Yeah.
Times 12.
And
Times every
we'd,
household.
ha-
times
we'd have
12.
to do it for everybody, and then everybody who doesn't give a whip about baseball would say, "Why am I paying for this?" Unlike the NFL Sunday ticket, which is cheap.
Quick comment, and those people who are interested in MLB, like I am, I have my own subscription, so I can stream anything on my computer.
That's what Brian ended up doing.
So it shouldn't be an issue.
No, that's what he ended up doing. He ended up streaming it on his, and that package, if you buy it through MLB.com, it's only like $50. $100?
It's more than that.
It's $100.
I think
No,
it's even more than that.
I think it's
if I
more.
remember correctly. You can buy in at halfway
Half
through the season.
Right. Or even
and
the final.
Then the rest of the season goes down.
I think you can. And can't you buy just the games in the market that you want? Like you could buy just Diamondbacks games or something like that.
If so, I'm not aware of that, but I've never really.
I'm pretty sure
explored it.
Brian said he bought the package for. I don't think it was $100.
Yeah, and I think there are sometimes promotions too.
Yeah.
So, I don't remember all the details, but when we were first negotiating with Groove, remember they mentioned that there were some possible changes to
Possible is
streaming
what they
and
said.
a whole bunch of other things that would come through them. Has there been any discussion around that at all?
We can't get it. It's this hospitality package we have does not allow any of that.
Even though they indicated that DirecTV was going to be changing.
Well, they indicated it was a possibility.
Yeah,
Apparently that hasn't happened.
that hasn't happened yet. Okay.
Yeah.
It was 6 months down the road for like the last 3 years or
Right.
something.
And I guess I think we've probably all read it, but there is rumor that AT&T is thinking about spinning off DirecTV.
Well,
May or may not be a good thing. I'm not.
Well, the other thing that I heard is that the NFL is considering not renewing the Sunday ticket. Now that contract still has like 3 years to run.
Right.
So it's a ways off. But is it the NFL or maybe it's DirecTV is considering not continuing with paying for
Well, some of that news is just a negotiating tactic.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But I mean, the things they cite is that DirecTV it's a declining business.
Oh,
I mean,
Streaming is
I wouldn't be surprised at all if we end up terminating a contract after 5 years here, because
We might.
I do think we'll have more streaming capabilities.
Yeah. Okay, electricity, looks like we're gonna be under budget on electricity, and we're gonna budget for next year accordingly with a little kicker for a rate increase. I think our electricity charges have gotten more consistent now that we don't have the crossover anymore with I mean, we still have we're still monitoring some meters and billing. Are we billing Glacier for
Yeah, we
for
have
one
some,
meter?
well, we have some, no La Plata meters. We have some
House
private
meters.
that were installed.
Yeah.
We read once a month. And
We figured out who was wired to what, and anything on our meters that was over in the new remodeled pool and fitness facility. They're now paying for that electricity, but they're paying us for it.
So
no,
the,
yeah, for a very small amount.
Yeah.
The majority, they took over one.
They took over the main meter.
The one main meter, yeah. The whole the new service line over there. So they're probably paying direct for 90% of their usage.
I think for a long time we were for the transition time that they took over that building,
construction.
we were paying for a lot of the electricity back in there.
Yep. Well, but you did bill them for some of it. We did agree
did.
for a few months, then we did bill them for some.
We did, but it was
So,
all estimates.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're past estimates now, and everything is real, and that's why we're seeing our actual bills having dropped.
For what it's worth, for most of the year, the amount paid by Glacier has been like between 300 and 450-ish per month.
Per month.
Like that.
Okay. So the line we're seeing here is a net
Is a
number?
net number.
It's a net number.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And Logan Noonan has been pretty, he's been pretty good about being cooperative on that and all this transition with the internet service.
Mhm.
They've been very good about working with us on when we transfer over to Cedar and when they stop billing us for the old system. And so
That'd be good.
everything's going pretty good with that.
When are they going to shut all of that off, Joe?
I don't know. I don't know why they still have it turned on. I mean, it's still turned on. You can still get it. I shut all my equipment off. By the way, when is Cody going to come and pick up all that stuff?
He's working on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's got a lot.
Would
He's
it
trying
be
to-
helpful if I disconnected all that stuff and put it in the bag and gave it to you?
That's what I did.
Yeah.
You turn it all off.
My wife would like it to be gone.
Everybody would like it to be gone, but there's some connections. That old service is still tied in with splitters and diplexers and all to the new TV service, and you don't want to screw that up.
Yeah. Okay.
He's working his way through. He's essentially done with the lodge, 90% done with Gamble Oak, and working his way through Pine Cone and High
Okay.
Point as time permits. But
All right.
we have had people do that successfully, and we also had people that have shut off all the rooms around them for TV. So we prefer they don't.
Yeah. Okay. I'll leave it alone. Hopefully by spring it'll be gone and my wife will be happy. It's taking up space on one of her places where she can put other things, Let's see. Internet and telephone service. Okay, so based on the billings we've been getting from Cedar for the systems, as we transition on to their system, we've been paying for the lodge for a couple of months. We've been paying for Gamble Oak for about a month, and we just got a partial bill for Pine Cone. We'll be getting a partial bill for High Point as well. So that has been a reduction. That's why our year-end number is quite a bit below budget there, and the budget amount of $224,100 that I have in there is based on my calculation of what all those billings will be when it's for a full month for all the units in the property. So it comes out to $18,675 a month, or $55.75 per month per household. So
And Glacier's been pretty good about honoring the cancellation dates and all of that.
yeah, that's what I
They seem
said.
to have been,
I've sent Logan
I thought
I've sent
that's
Logan
what
the notices, and
Yeah.
every time it gets the notice, he says fine. One time I had to extend it because Cedarwood didn't get done on time, and actually that was good because it was the 20th of the month, and I pushed it to the 30th of the month, and that made it a full month cutoff. The only complex that's going to have a prorated amount is going to be High Point.
Yeah.
So just an interesting. So if you combine for internet, telephone, and satellite, owners are now paying $85.77 a month for the service. Prior to that, under the old Glacier systems, they were paying $110 a month for everything.
How much was that, Joe?
What's that?
How
110.
much was it?
It was right around 110,
106.28.
106.28. Okay, as opposed to what's now 85.77.
So go back, what we talked about earlier, the in-house phones now can't be used for long distance calls, or?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. The Cedar system includes long distance.
U.S. and Canada.
U.S. and Canada, that's right. Yeah. Domestic in Canada. International is blocked. You can't make an international call. They would turn it on if we wanted them to, but we don't want them to. If you want to make an international call, do that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, telephone. This was the fixed fee that we had been paying Glacier for the use of their telephone system since they took out the switch and put in their phone system to replace the old Nortel switch, $21.50 a month. So that goes away. We stop paying that. So that line item will be removed. And refuse service, this is our contract with Waste Management. Pretty straightforward, and we're budgeting for just a slight increase.
That includes recycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that includes the recycle, and there's a factor in there for fuel surcharge as gas goes up and down, or diesel fuel, I guess.
Actually, they did away with that.
Do they?
Yeah.
They don't do it anymore?
No, the last one that Gary and Janie, the person for Waste Management, they put a set number on there so we don't have adjustment. We won't. That's a pretty hard number now.
Good.
They don't do
That's
that.
good.
Fuel adjustment.
That's good. So if you look at the bottom lines there, it looks like we will have overspent by a bit this year. Next year, our projected budget, that $2,141,353, that would be the number if we were all finished with this that we would move up into the assessments to owners, plug it in, and then go back and then go to the new calculation spreadsheet that I've prepared to calculate the monthly fees to owners. And at this level, because the satellite TV and the internet are billed separate on separate line items on an owner's bill, those two figures would be backed out of there. The net from that calculation would go into the spreadsheet and calculate the owner's assessments. And I did that this morning, and like I said, if we left this exactly the way it was, for instance, an A unit assessment is $375 a month right now. I think it would go down to $366.
So what's the percentage multiplier, Joe, on the adjustment?
What's that?
The percentage adjustment that you estimated for next year?
You'd have to. I just did an.
But it should be the same for everybody, right?
Oh yeah, it would be the same for all the
I'm
units.
just asking what that.
I don't know. I didn't calculate that. Yeah.
Well,
You could do the math.
give this from 375 down to 366. 9 divided by 375, 2.4%.
2.5%.
Yeah.
So that, if I did this right, that would be about the same all the way down the line, and it should be. But of course, we're not done yet, so we're not ready to go there yet.
I just
Can we
think,
take 5?
yeah, for the board, I think it's interesting just to do the categories. Building and grounds, basically snow, we were 50,000 over budget. Salaries, because of one person that wasn't replaced, we are 20,000 under. Utilities were 67,000 under. The controllable expenses to operate this facility, I think we had a really, really good year. The capital numbers pushed us to the numbers that Joe referenced here at the end. We'll talk about those in a minute, but I don't think anybody would regret what we did on the capital. We'll see later.
No, and I mean, like I said, 118,000 overspent, but what, over half of that was snow removal.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, I just have a comment. So I write contracts for a living, and our dollar amount for snow removal seems pretty exorbitant. So maybe I can share any information that I might have with vendors. I don't know what the process is for, soliciting the work or what the overall cost that is, but with my experience, that seems pretty exorbitant. And so certainly we have some vendors that maybe I can share with you, and for that snow removal.
Everything we have is time and material. We don't have any standing contracts. We pay if it isn't removed. So, I mean, we can talk to people, but
It's basically temps on call is what it comes down to.
They don't get paid unless, if they don't plow, they don't get paid. If they don't shovel, they don't get paid.
and a big part of it with heavy snows like last year is it's not just the grounds, and we pay a premium when they shovel roofs, and they had to shovel a lot of roofs last year.
Right.
And guys won't go up on the roof cheap.
Right.
Plus, you had to have
Yeah,
snow
because
like
we've got-
hauled out of here because we had so much.
Yeah.
last
Yeah, we had to
year.
truck it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't quite certain if that was offsite removal. I mean, we do a lot of offsite removal, and even with the collective of roof removal, offsite removal, after our calling holidays, that dollar amount just seems pretty out of the ordinary. But that's just what I've seen in terms of an overall number. So yeah, I was just looking at that. And certainly, like I said, I don't know what that involves per se in terms of like the area. We have several locations that we work with. I've written contracts for like Aspen, Leadville, Colorado Springs, Pueblo. Areas that certainly get a lot of snow. Aspen, Leadville, White River, which is over Glenwood Springs. Heavy snowfalls collectively. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay.
Take a break.
Yeah, we can take a break.
10 minutes.
Yeah, that works.
My wife tripped the.
Roll. Yeah. Got us on paused, Gary?
It was on pause, yeah, we're recording now.
Okay, moving on to the third page, capital projects. So the two sections there, the upper section is all of the projects that we had this year, that were budgeted for this year. And then below that is what I like to call the wish list for next year. So we'll go down through these. 801, removal of the handicap elevator sign. I guess this hasn't been done yet, but it's going to get done before the end of the year, according to Dave. Right, Dave?
Actually, we got about 75% of it done last year. We have enough room in just our regular budget. That's why this year's only 1,000, just to replace, finish up what we started.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Pinecone parking lot resealed. That was completed on budget. High Point's next for next year. And did we put that down? Yeah. Okay. So we're budgeting $15,800 for High Point for next year.
So that isn't a typo.
It's what?
That's not a typo. From 18.5 to 15.8.
Yeah.
It's a smaller
High
parking
Point's
lot.
smaller, right?
Okay.
Less cracks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Better shape, yeah.
Good to ask though, Garrett. Good to ask though. All right. Purchase of the new landscape cart. We had done that, and then we were going to do some more against this budget. Dave, what was the additional $4,000 for?
Yeah, we were hoping to get a plow for it.
Oh, that's right, a plow.
It's just some work on it in general. We bought a used one.
So that item won't be there next year. Bat mitigation, we're finished with that for this year. We spent $62,200, and we're budgeting $30,000 for next year. Dave, do you want to talk about that at all, or?
It's kind of self-explanatory. We put in a number last year to do the entire lodge if we felt we needed it. We have this problem, so we did some of the lodge and some of the outlying areas as they came up. The part they didn't get to on the backside, they'll finish next spring. The only thing that leaves undone is the front south. We just haven't seen any issues with bats there, so we put in some extra money for if problems arise, but not enough to finish the lodge 100%, but I don't think we need the front at this time.
And it seemed to be a less problematic year this year than
Yeah.
it was in 2018, to me, anyway.
When I was in Denver last week, there was a news report saying that the state hoped there would be more bats coming in to help control
Insects.
Insects.
Yeah. Mosquitoes and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, the population was down. They hoped it would increase.
When you want bats, you just don't put them in your roof.
Yeah.
Tell them we have some ready for migration.
We'll bring it up to
806, half of pine cone front railing paint. That's done. We'll do the second half next year. By the way, my railings got painted, and when they put that paint on there when they did the remodel, I don't know how well they can prep it, but it didn't last very long. And they look good now. I hope it lasts longer this time. Sinkhole repairs in High Point, did some of that, and we'll do a little bit more next year. Dave, do you want to get any details on that?
Hoping to extend the concrete pad out in front of the dumpster. There's a trench that's failing for the old irrigation line. That's basically two things we have.
It seems like there's 2 spots that are marked off.
Yeah, I think they had some of that this year, but yeah, there's some they didn't get to.
Yeah. I mean, 2 additional spots that are marked off to be repaired.
Is that where Bob Dean parks all the time?
No.
I'm a special assessment for Bob.
Is it creating problems with that big truck of his? 808, rear deck railing paint. This is pretty much spot work. We did quite a bit of that this year, and we'll continue on with that next year. Gamble Oak lawn furniture. We bought some. We're done. That item will go away for next year. Onity lock system upgrades. We did that. That goes away for next year. 811 Gamble Oak Irrigation PRV. I'm gonna let Dave talk about this.
When the pressures were real high, we were having problems with our irrigation lines blowing. So we put a PRV in the lodge. We put one in the irrigation line in Pinecone because there already was on domestic. And about as soon as we got that done, their pressures dropped. So they're not really in use. But so we had planned to put a PRV in Gamble Oak. We don't feel we need it, but we do want to repipe in the manhole because we already blew the line in Pinecone. The welding on the plastic just wasn't good. The contractor that put it in, so we're changing over to brass in there because I already went swimming in the Pinecone one once. I don't want to do it again. And if it blows when you're in the manhole, it's a scramble to get out there before you drown.
Or it fills up, yeah.
So we're changing out that hopefully next year.
Yeah, I remember when that Pinecone one right in front of Bogart's unit blew, filled up that manhole. And when it drained, when it got it shut off and drained it out of there, you look at that work that was done, that convoluted PVC. Well, I looked at that and I said, who would do that?
One of Glacier's contractors, I believe.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
So you're going to have one of professional plumber do that, Dave?
Yeah, Roseberry will come
Okay.
do that.
812 under building and storage cleanup. Got that done. We're going to do a little bit more in 2020 and get that completed. 813 and 815 work in the second floor and third and fifth floor service centers here in the lodge. Those rooms were getting pretty tired, and I guess we replaced some ceiling panels, did some painting, and
Yeah, we haven't done any painting yet, but we replaced all the lighting and all of them and put in new some of the tiles. We have to
floor
redo
tiles,
ceiling tiles.
no ceiling tiles.
Yeah, we still have to redo some of the venting to finish up the ceiling tile work, and then what we have left from there, we'll do additional painting and touch up.
Okay. So we'll get those done this year, and they'll be finished. Valuation of the lodge roof, Dave, you want to comment on that?
We had a contractor come in, look at the roof. It's run much later than I thought, but we do have a preliminary report. I shared it with Eric. We got the numbers. It's really a report and it'll be a full set of bid specs. So when the time comes, there'll have to be some tweaking when that is, but should be usable for bidding also.
So the valuable part of that is the full set of bid specs, and we can just, when we're ready, we can just send those out to contractors for bids.
Is it to presume the same type of roofing we've used elsewhere, or?
No, it's two different types, metal in some areas, shingle, asphalt shingle in another.
Okay.
And then they looked at whether gutters, heat tapes, and hot edge where we needed them, and made recommendations. It's obviously our decision if we want to spend that money.
I would expect there'll be some payback when we do that, because right now there's, from a insurance standpoint, the worst roof you can have is a cedar shake shingle.
No doubt.
So once we get that off of there and go with the metal, combination of the metal and the asphalt shingles, we should see it. We should see a reduction in our insurance premiums.
Yeah. One thing just as a political expediency, if nothing else, we don't own the entire roof. We have a neighbor to the south who owns a fitness center who looks like it's our roof. We might want to share with them what we're thinking and our timing as we get a little closer on that.
Yeah.
Let's do it together.
That's a good idea too.
I want to mention that to Jim too, just as an
Yeah.
aside, just a little, by the way.
If you're mentioning the roof to them, you might mention that siding that's when you go up the south stairwell and they look to the right, that they've said they were going to replace from day one and they never have.
Well, we still have a punch list of
6 or 8 things.
Glacier items like that have never been resolved.
including landscaping.
I can actually print that for you before you go, if you want to bring any of it up.
I'd rather focus on the
Oh, yeah, I would
task
too.
at hand.
I would
Yeah.
too. You don't want to muddy the waters.
But sometimes being able to check off a few small things
Yeah, no, I get it.
gets the momentum going.
Yeah.
And I think what Dave's talking about is most of our
No, I see it. Back-
is
yeah,
this
back-
way and theirs is this way. It looks like
Well,
two different projects.
Well, they were also supposed to build a sound barrier where those HVAC units are,
Uh-huh.
and they actually put the posts up. The posts are there, but they never put the siding or the material on to provide the sound barrier.
Uh-huh.
So what if we made a recommendation that just said, hey, if you guys can't get through it too soon, why don't we just throw some bids at it and have somebody bid it for us and they reimburse us?
Could do that if they're willing to spend the money, but they don't have the time. I'd go that way.
That way we'd control the output.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, Joe,
Yes, sir.
can you make that a little bit larger?
Can I make it larger?
Just-
How's that?
That's better.
I can make it bigger.
It's the only one. I don't even know who that is.
Is that good?
Yeah, it was for.
Okay. Okay, unplanned capital expenses. The list is right there. We decided a couple years ago that instead of just waiting for things to happen that we didn't expect, we'd put a budget in there, a nominal amount, and see if we could cover some of it. And we've gotten pretty good at between 20 and 25,000 seems to be a good number. Last year we spent on those items up there that you see on the screen. Biggest one was the North Tower elevator, $14,669. Now that money actually came out of the account. That's the inside of that's the elevator cab, the inside, and that money actually came out of the surplus lodge remodel. Money that's been sitting in the bank for a couple of years. There's still about 5,000 in that. So we budgeted 25,000 for that for next year. Lodge heater upgrades. This is something we've been doing pretty much ongoing for several years, replacing failing PTAC units. Those are mostly PTAC units, aren't they?
Yeah, very
Not
few.
PTAC units, the wall units, right?
Wall units, actually they're everything.
Everything.
Across the board.
So you're suggesting only 3,000 this year, Dave. Do you see that ramping down?
It went down, but I don't see it ramping down to zero.
Lodge landscaping. This was part of the 2017 contract with Glacier. If we put this in again this year, it would be the third year that we put it into the budget with nothing from Glacier. They were supposed to provide for some sprucing up of the landscaping. This is what Bob Berkman called enhancing the quality of arrival, the sense of arrival. Make the place as this is our areas at the lodge that are adjunct their areas of their new fitness center and that outdoor area, and these areas were pointed out in the contract, but we never got any work cooperation from them in terms of producing the plan and telling them, getting with us and telling us what they wanted to do. My opinion is the statute of limitations ran out on this, and we went ahead and spent money on other things, including the new smoking huts out
I
there.
wondered where we pay for that from.
And that's where we pay for it, right
Okay.
there. And my opinion is we take this out of the budget and stop waiting for Glacier to do something about it. Frankly, at this point, I don't think they care anymore.
Well,
The,
I'm okay with that.
there's a tiny part of it, Joe. There was some signage money that I think still needs to be spent. What I would suggest is that we make this one 0 as you proposed, but instead of the unplanned being 25, move that up to 30.
Well, we can make a new line item for signage down at the bottom. We can,
That's okay too.
I mean, that really becomes, if you're going to spend it on signage, you're planning it.
Well, only if we can get agreement to put out the sign.
Yeah. I mean,
that's why.
I mean, we can add, down here, down in this area right here, we can add a line item for signage improvements.
But either way is fine.
I'd prefer to do it that way. That way you've identified it.
Dave, there were a couple of pieces of landscaping that were originally, we thought were going to go in that 50 that were really to benefit us. Did we ever get that work done?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
There was some, you were going to do some irrigation on the island.
Well,
Yeah,
that's in the next section.
Oh,
We
okay.
identified that as a single
Got you.
project for next
Okay.
year. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Central Tower elevator upgrade. This is the project that's been completed. I'll let Dave comment on this. The reason there's a $10,000 amount remaining to be spent on a project that's pretty much done has to do with the inspection and a final billing. Dave, go ahead.
We're still dealing with Superior Alarm on there. It's passed all the inspections, all the tests. We're approved to use it, but they don't have an approved plan. The plan they did wasn't approved, so they're having to go back through afterwards, get the plan approved.
Approved by fire department?
By the fire department. And then at that point, we'll allow them to bill it. So that's what's sitting out there. So we're legal. The fire department and the state approved the use of it, even though we theoretically or realistically didn't pass the final inspection. It's tentative. It's just a paper chase now.
So that's just
physically they have to
like
do.
a reserve or something, or a holdback technically, that once it's all done, we pay the final bill?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, we haven't paid them a penny on it.
Gotcha.
And just from a budgeting standpoint, are we better off leaving it in this year's budget or should we move it to next year? I mean, it's been out there for months.
Yeah.
The prospect of getting it resolved in the next 60 days to me is, but I don't know how you account for it. Would you essentially expense it as part of the 2019 budget? And you won't unless we get a bill, right?
I mean, we could move that 10,000 into next year and put 0 under the assumption that it's not going to get resolved this year, and it will, and hopefully it will next year. Do that.
We generally do accrue expenses that are unpaid as of the end of the year. I would be happy with whatever the board wanted to do in regards to your question, because there's a sense in which the work hasn't been completed yet, assuming it doesn't get completed by December 31st.
Right.
And when I say work completed, I mean whatever the last steps are.
It's not really
Justifies
work.
our payment.
It's getting the
Whatever it is that needs to get done. to
getting the
complete contract
inspection
hasn't been fulfilled.
legal and then getting a bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can make a fair argument either direction, and I'm happy to defer to
I
whichever the
think
board
we
wants
should just
to.
leave it this year, and if it doesn't get done, we'll just roll it.
Okay.
Not a huge number.
Nope. I think the chances of getting it done this year is pretty slim.
I mean, what do you think, Dave? Is it going to get done this year, or would you bet it's going to roll?
I guess if I had to bet right now, I'd say it'd roll over because I haven't seen any steps in the positive direction.
Again,
Doesn't matter.
just knowing it's there, we'll roll it if we have to.
Do you want me to highlight that for later today or tomorrow, just in case?
Yeah.
Bring us back to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not that. It's this one. Okay. Gamble Oak front deck railing paint. pretty straightforward, and that's all done. Goes away next year. And there's Eric's contribution to reserves yet to be filled in. So now the new projects, proposed new projects for 2020. The lodge landscape irrigation. This is getting water to the landscape islands in the lodge that don't have it right now. Lodge south elevator upgrade. This is Dave just got a revised price on this. It was up to like $205 or so. But he worked with the contractor and tweaked it a bit, and it's still 11% higher than the central tower. Got it down some. South elevator cab remodel. This would be duplicating in the south elevator what we have in the north elevator, in the central tower elevator. I think everybody would agree that's a big improvement over what it was.
Once every 40 years.
Yeah.
Probably the same group 40 years from now. We'll still be talking about it.
Yeah.
Lodge lighting improvements. Dave, I'll let you explain this.
This is just the antler lights that are in the lobbies, the double ones. They're getting old. Some of them are broken. We've changed out what we can. We can't get those anymore.
People hit them with luggage carts.
Really, if they don't get replaced, we really need to remove them, tighten up the bolts on the back. They've gotten loose. We've tightened some of them. So this was just the thought of replacing, put in a number, picked out a light, not that we have to go with that one, but just to come out with something to price. Something's a little more bulletproof than what we have out there. It wouldn't be antler lights, it'd be something different.
High Point pump issue. I'll let you talk about this one, Dave.
Before we get on, just on the lighting, our parking lots, I assume we're probably not using a high efficiency bulb in the parking lot. Is it something we should be thinking about in the next couple of years?
Well, we actually have been changed. The lodge has been changed over. It's all LEDs now.
Okay.
We haven't done the other ones yet. We were having more problems with them burning out here in the lodge. So we did those, I think it was last year or the year before.
Okay.
It's a relatively simple process. We rented a man lift and hired Frank, and it's just a tow behind lift that I tow behind. He'd go up and take him about half an hour to take out the ballast and all the stuff in there, and then he'd retrofit in an LED into there.
So most of those energy savings have already been captured is kind of what I'm getting at.
In the lodge they have.
In the lodge, okay.
Yeah. And we had more lights in the lodge, which is one of the reasons we did it here.
What are the bulbs in the outlying areas at the porches with the?
In Pinecone, they're LEDs. They're just a normal fixture that we put LED bulbs in.
So we did put LEDs in.
Yeah, because they got the new heads on them.
Yeah.
The other two areas are fluorescents, compact fluorescents.
So CFLs.
Yeah.
Okay. How long do you think it's going to be before we can't buy CFLs anymore? They're going by the wayside.
Sort of, they are, yeah.
They're supposed to. I think it's a lot harder for them to get it there just because, houses aren't retrofitted. I don't know.
And I haven't looked into it, but I imagine we could retrofit the heads in there to change over to a regular bulb and still keep the fixture.
So those aren't such that you could just take out the CFL and screw in an LED bulb.
No, it's really not even truly a CFL. It's actually a fluorescent, a small fluorescent bulb. So it has its own separate ballast, and it's a bayonet type fitting. It doesn't match up with a standard bulb.
Is that those long ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are expensive too.
They are.
Yeah. Okay. Lodge back deck furniture. What was the thought here, Dave?
Yeah, we just had one of the chairs tore, another one's in bad shape. They're just old, so we're just gonna basically do the same thing but with new furniture.
My experience is you can't buy decent deck furniture for that kind of money. And what are we talking about? Just Walmart stuff? Or?
Well, no, this is through Wayfair. we get pretty good prices from, but it's probably not a whole lot.
How much you planning to get for $1,200?
Just three
Oh, okay.
sets.
Okay.
3 pairs of chairs, essentially, so 6 chairs.
Joe, I think you passed over the fire sprinkler pumps.
Oh, don't want to do that. Talk about that one, Dave.
Okay. We rebuilt our fire sprinkler pump in the lodge. We have one up at High Point that the weep on it isn't right, so we're having to manually keep the shaft wet. They should weep constantly so when they kick on, it's not dry, and you just shear the shaft on it. So there's 4 pumps at High Point, and this is just starting that process, working through those. This is a company, Odessa Pump, out of New Mexico that did our other one. The price jumped way up, so we're actually trying to get a second price from the contractor out of Montrose. So this may go down if the contractor out of Montrose can do it. But unfortunately, with fire pumps, you're locked into a small number of contractors, and it's not like we can go out and buy a fire pump and hire somebody to put it in. It's probably half of this is for the pump, and the other half is for the insurance.
So the 14,000 is to replace 4 pumps?
One.
Okay. I thought you said we had 4 pumps.
We're working our way through it once a year, 1 per year. We're only having a problem with 1, but we're assuming they all went in at the same time, that we're going to see the problems arise as we go around. One thing we're also looking at is if we pull the 1 pump, if we can send it to the shop with this guy having rebuild that pump, he has a year to rebuild it, and then we'll just domino through that, putting the rebuild pump in the next one, pull that one out, and move it to the next one.
How much can we save by going with rebuilt rather than new?
Don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Is there any volume discount?
I don't know if 1 per year counts as a volume discount.
Oh, well, I'm saying if you got 2, I'm not quite sure what we're talking about. Is this something that has to be shipped here on the back of a truck? I mean, can we at least save a few $100s of freight?
I don't think so.
Okay. And the only thing I know for certain is these are going to probably go up every year. So
Yeah. And I'll talk to this new guy when he comes in, get his different thoughts on it. Odessa did a good job, but I had some questions. They responded to those, had other questions, and I think they're kind of take our number or not. They basically just was responding.
Okay.
Okay. We talked about the lodge, back deck furniture. Lodge 4th and 5th floor water valves. Dave?
Our main valves servicing the 4th and 5th floor. Same thing. Everything, they're old. They're 30, 40 years old. We replaced, I think, the 2nd or 3rd floor. We can repack them to a point, but they're to the point now when we have to shut down a floor. We usually have to drain a bucket. They leak for starts out at about a day, and we're up to about 2 weeks on these. That we have to drain a bucket every day before they'll seal themselves up. So we're reaching the point between build up and age, they're just not doing the job.
What size valves are these?
I believe those are 4-inch there.
4-inch.
Yeah, and this is another one that Roseberry would do.
Mm-hmm.
So 3,500 includes both the valve and the install?
Well, this is
It's a swag.
Yeah.
That's our idea of the price, not the contractor.
Yeah, they've been out to look at it, and they're supposed to give me a price, but they didn't have it to me by today, so.
Replacing the backflow preventers in High Point, Dave?
Yeah, when Glacier Club first went through, they put in, it's called RPZs, or reduced principal zone, which basically when they stop the backflow, they just dump the water on the ground. If it sticks, they just continue dumping till you find it and stop it. They did that everywhere. They finally agreed that Gamble Oak and Pinecone, basically they were ruining our closets when they failed. So they went back and put in double checks, which work differently. You don't have the water leak, but they wouldn't do High Point because they said we're not ruining anything. It's just dumping on dirt underneath your building. And they were essentially right, but it's still, we found one that it probably dumped for 3 weeks before somebody got underneath there and figured out we were flooding. So we want to go through at our cost and put in change them to double checks. And this is just the start of it. I think there's, I can't remember, there's 5 or 6 up there. This is to do one. And this is something that we can do in-house. Mark can do this, I'm pretty sure. Or he was pretty sure he could, but if he does, he'll have to get a plumber to help him. But it's just to slowly work our way through and pull out the RPCs and do the double checks.
Okay, and the last item, central tower doors. Dave is of the opinion that the doors, the wooden doors that were put in when the lodge remodel happened a few years ago are becoming a maintenance issue. They get beat up by the weather, the sun, the moisture, and we're having to restain them constantly. It's the nature of wood. They wear. They're hard to keep aligned, and other. What other?
The other with that inset onity lock in there.
Lock, yeah.
If anybody hits it, kid runs down and hits the doors before they have a chance to unlock, or it doesn't unlatch like it should. If you can look at the top, they're starting to split out. We added a piece of wood where they're starting to crack out to hold all that in place. Those are really made to go inside an aluminum door where there's more
So we're talking
strength.
this door right here?
Yeah.
Right out here.
Yeah.
So it's the exterior doors and the interior doors, both sets. And the suggestion from Dave is to go with storefront type doors, glass and extruded metal, similar to what we had before. And more durable, less maintenance, hold up better.
Better wear and tear.
Not something we have to do, but it's a good idea. Eric, what was the item that you wanted added?
Signage?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Would you suggest 5?
Yes.
Okay.
I was approached by some of the owners here in the lodge, and they asked if we could put something up, maybe something like, please be respectful of residents and fellow guests on the doors coming into the hallways. And I said, I will bring it up.
I don't want any more damn signs.
From my standpoint, consider it brought up.
Yeah, exactly. I've already
I
responded.
mean,
on
we
that
don't
one.
need signs to tell people how to be respectful, or what was the other one?
Running up
Kids
and down
running in the
hall.
hallways.
We're
Come
not-
on.
We're not-
Gary and I had this
We're not
discussion on the way
parenting
up
from the board. Has been mine.
Gary and I had this discussion on the way up from the airport. You're a 6-year-old kid. You open that door. You see that hallway. What are you gonna do? You're
run
gonna
down.
run.
You're gonna jump up and down and try and touch the ceiling.
No, you gotta read the sign. You gotta read the sign first, and then run.
Okay, couple things. Did we ever what did we decide to do? We haven't done anything, but north of the land swap land. That land's
Good
sitting up
point.
there. We don't
It's
have
sitting
any-
up there. We haven't done anything with it.
Right.
Yep.
I
We
think-
talked about putting a gazebo up there. We've talked about, I mean, at the minimum, it should be probably better landscaped. I mean,
Yeah.
do we have irrigation up there?
We have it up close to there, but not up in that area.
So we could tap off of that and extend it then.
Theoretically, once
Yeah.
again, we get into pressure issues
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. But
Right.
mean, I guess maybe just add a line item to it. We can highlight it, decide later if we want to do it. I just don't want to forget about it.
Oh, yeah. Which reminds me, there was another one that was brought up.
Charge
Well,
station that we talked about.
We talked about a charge station. We talked about a dog park. Came up at the annual meeting or at the
Yeah,
last board
but-
meeting.
Where do
Yeah.
we find real estate for a dog
We
park?
talked about doing something with Tamron.
Oh, okay.
I mean Tamron.
With Fisher, yeah.
Well, that's not I see. No.
And you got signage, gazebo north.
Let's see, north.
What it costs
Too
us to
many
build that
words.
smoking deal?
when it's all said and done, it'll probably be 15,000, 16,000.
To build a smoke. smoking?
Yeah.
Okay. How, is it done now? I mean, we walked in there yesterday. It looks done, but.
The roof's not on yet, the metal roof. It's just under ice and water shield.
Okay.
And of course, the walkway up to it, we have to complete. We're going to put in pavers
Okay.
to it from the
That
sidewalk.
explains the existence of the green tent still. Okay.
Yeah. And the walkway will be in. He's supposed to be here Monday. The contractor was going to do that for us. And so the first couple of days, and then we'll take the tent down. We don't need the roof on. Put the tent
You want to try to throw a number at that area north of the lodge?
Well, that's what I
I
was
mean,
just
I don't know what
asking.
we're
I
gonna
mean,
do. I mean,
well,
oh, is that why
Let's
you're
just put
asking
it-
what it costs to build that?
yeah. Let's
I mean,
just
I
put
would
it-
think you're looking at, to do much of anything up
Probably
there.
20 grand.
You're looking at 20 grand. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, the three things I just wanted to throw out there so we don't forget about them are that charge station for electric cars we talked about.
Do you want me to add that?
Just put it
Discussion.
on there. Yeah, just as a, I think, it seems like we Googled it last time we were here and we thought it cost like $6,000 or something.
Yeah, there's
right?
several different options.
Yeah.
Well, I had asked Dave. Dave gave me a swag on installing it, and I looked up online the stations themselves. I think they were about $2,000. And then the question I always had was, how do you handle paying for the power? I mean, do those stations? I didn't see where those stations. Like you could stick a credit card in and get so many amp hours. I don't know.
Well, we
I mean,
need to
we
dig into
certainly,
regardless, but-
I think we certainly do not want to put one in, and it's, go ahead and use it, and we'll pay for the power.
No, I mean, I want it on there. I'm not saying we put a dollar amount to it. Because keep in mind, that's another thing that Glacier said, hey, that's something that might have value for both of us.
Right.
Maybe we just pick one of these parking spots, down there by the building.
Okay, what else?
The clubhouse, yeah.
What
And
was
then
your other item?
electric doors. Remember we talked about possibly having automatic doors down there at the lobby?
For people with luggage and older people coming in.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do the
Yeah.
do the central tower doors, that could be right up part of that
I was going to
project.
bring that up. I mean, if we're going to look at doors here, I think the concern was, disabled people. Though is it something that we have to worry about?
Are you talking about the ones where you punch the button, or the ones that are motion activated?
Probably motion, I would think.
I think motion activated is. I think it's the one.
Well,
I
actually,
think-
no.
I
I'd
think
rather
where
the
you-
door because we.
I think where you punch the button is
Yeah.
what you want.
Yeah.
With the cold air, it's
Yeah, exactly.
anytime somebody walks by, the damn door opens.
You open,
Right.
yeah, both doors open, you get a
Yeah.
real blast in there
Right.
in that lobby.
So maybe we look at that as part of, unless there's any concern that it needs to be down at the lobby, for purposes of people checking in.
Well, I think if you're going to consider it, I think you consider it for both the lobby area and the central tower both.
And we don't have to do them both in the same year.
No.
It's just something I'd like to keep it on there so we don't forget.
Now the central tower doors, if we do that project this next year, that could be added to that. It could be an add-on to that one. If you did it at the lobby doors, which we're not doing anything with right now, it would be a retrofit to those doors. And then if we decide to, I mean, would you be thinking, Dave, that we probably need to do the lobby doors at some point too?
Well, the lobby doors actually have less issue. Part of it is the weather issue is less because of the porte cochere. It doesn't get the sun beating on it.
And they don't have the Onity lock either.
They haven't, but it's been disabled since the day we put it on. Since the desk has been
Manned.
manned, yeah. So those doors have held out. The day's going to come, but it's
Not anytime soon.
not in the foreseeable future.
So that would be if there was a retrofit kit to put to make the doors electrically open and close.
Well, I mean, I think logically, since we got to do these doors anyway, we can either up that number or just have it bid and deal with it later. I don't know what the motor, what the hardware is for some
I
of
don't have
those
no
doors,
idea.
but if we got to replace the doors anyway, it would make more sense just to do that here with an auto opening door first, and then we can figure out the lodge later or figure out the front desk later.
I have just a little comment. I wrote a contract recently for the air tanker bays for doors, and we did an install. It was time material construction for some doors, And it was pretty significant, and the cost was $6,800. So, there again, just as a contribution, I can show that information on the vendor. It's a local vendor. We also did the ADA accessible doors, and that was a separate procurement for doors, and that roughly was about $8,500, but that was after the fact.
So how do you define ADA accessible versus the former that you mentioned?
So the former, that particular door, what it was is it was to separate some office space for the dispatch center. And so those particular doors were, they were metal and glass so that people incoming could see the dispatcher. And so that particular door, they had to reconstruct the wall. And then we had an individual who was in a wheelchair, and they needed a fob to be able to open the doors because their limbs were undeveloped. They couldn't press the door. But then we have individuals that actually can push the button. And so we had another vendor come in and modify it to incorporate the electrical pieces for the door. And so that was separate, and that came after the fact, so that was $8,000. So,
Is John Niebling?
my point here is that if in any way I can make a contribution to provide information on these type of things, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Just because I have a little bit of knowledge of how, like with this case, you have a door, you want to get that, and then maybe a year later, so you want to put in the door panel for the ADA accessibility.
Okay. Okay, fair. Thanks for the input, because I wasn't sure how to differentiate it. So, I mean, I think what makes sense is just to look into it as part of that particular replacement. I guess my only concern is if you do one, you're kind of needing to do two, because you got two doors. So it might be doubling the cost, but I think maybe we should look into that. Just at least get the cost down. See what we understand it to be.
So did you get all your, electric doors? You want to, so we're just going to include that in this one here?
Yeah.
John Niebling says you didn't say what time,
We had
but
a
I think you
vendor
told
out
everybody it was at 8
of,
o'clock.
It's 4B construction. And then they did a project out of Gosa, and then we had Durango Glass. And then there's another vendor. We worked with 3 different vendors.
Okay.
Tell them it's on the website.
John's not exactly the best at
He's screwed up a
reading
bunch of time.
emails and timing and stuff like that.
What time zone are you in? We're in Colorado, John. Always have been.
All right, so we good?
Unless you want to put.
Let's just highlight it and we'll let
You want to put numbers on them or just highlight them and.
We'll throw 20 grand on the North Lodge building, just since we talked through a number out there, so we have it.
And I'll leave it highlighted.
And vehicle charging, we need to do the research.
I think what I came up with what I looked up and what Dave told me, I think it sounded like about $6,000 a pop.
Yeah, I thought that.
And again, I didn't establish whether or not that had a credit card activation on it, which you would necessarily want to have.
I don't want to necessarily stick a number at all right now, because I think if we're going to have a discussion with Glacier on it being a shared use kind of gig, then we don't really know. We got to do the research on how much it costs and determine if they're going to split it anyway.
Well, then why have it on here? It's going to be.
I just don't want to forget about it.
Okay.
That's all.
Well,
it could roll at 21. I don't know.
It's going to for the purposes of this forum and this discussion. As of tomorrow, it goes away.
If we put it elsewhere, we will.
Okay.
I just don't want to forget about it.
All right. Okay, so that's the capital projects, permanent reserves. Let me make this bigger. So Tommy, you see what I did last night or early this morning? I went ahead and added the withdrawal for the purchase of 110. Anything highlighted up there in blue is something I added after Tommy and I talked last night. So now that fills out that total estimated column and puts it, we're a little off from what you had, 696.18, and I got 695.499. I don't know where the difference is, but on this sheet, it's 696.818, and I've got 695.499. Not enough to spend any time trying to figure out where it is. It's an estimate anyway. So I sent an email this morning. So Tommy, for you and for everybody else, we had part of the discussion yesterday was on this interest on investments 440. That 1226 is all interest. The 39.95 and the 1226 is all interest on our accounts at First Internet Bank of Indiana.
Oh, okay.
The Stearns Bank, they don't send statements. You got to do everything online. I went online this morning, and the way they post interest on CDs is 6 and 12-month CDs. Interest gets posted on the date of maturity. 18 and 24 and anything else, we only go up to 24, is posted annually. So right now, we're a year into our investments with Stearns Bank in Minneapolis. And right now, the only interest that has been posted to the accounts that I can see online is the first 6 months is the 6 month CDs, because they will post. No, that's not right either, because I saw some interest on the 6 month CDs.
They must have rolled over then.
It must have rolled over.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't have, because that should have been rolled into a 24 month. But regardless, I'll get that taken care of. But anyway, so I emailed the people at Stearns Bank and I asked them to estimate for me, because there's a whole bunch of interest that's going to post this month. And I can't figure out how much it's going to be, because the data on their website doesn't, it shows you the interest. I could calculate it. I could probably estimate it.
Right.
But I thought to myself this morning as I was trying to do that, I said, I'm just going to email them and put it on them and see if they'll help me out with this.
So when you say it's going to post this month, are you talking about as of 10/31 or as of 9/30?
Well, this is November.
Right.
It's going to post this month. All of our
interest too.
all of our CDs, if the interest posts annually for anything over 6 months, then all of our CDs are going to have interest posted on them as of the 26th of November.
26. Okay, that's what I was going. Okay.
Yeah. So I want to find out what that is so I can. It's not going to be a small number. It's going to be about. I'm going to guess $4,000 to $5,000.
Okay.
So I want to be able to put that in there, because that's going to bring us right up to budget, and we can know that we were budgeting properly for that. So, so that's why those are there. And I just looked at my email. I shut my email off on here so it wouldn't keep popping up on the screen. And I don't know whether I've heard from them or not. I can do this I can fix it during the break. No, doesn't look like I've heard back from them yet. So hopefully, I told them I needed the information by the end of the day, so we'll see what happens there.
Okay. But your gut probably tells you we have a little more money invested, but it's probably at a little bit lower interest rates. So it's going to be around 10,000 or.
Yeah, I think it's going to come right close to the budget.
Yeah.
I think we budgeted properly on it, because we looked at it last year when we did this. We looked at where our investments were, and we We said, here's what we think we can accrue to them. And when we talked yesterday, I said, why is that so low? It should be higher than that. And it was because this bank has, their policy is they only post interest once a year on these CDs. So and all of that comes to fruition for us 3 weeks from now. So we need to fill that number in. Hopefully I can get that in before the end of the day, so we have it for tomorrow. We have to make a decision on the capital contribution, the transfer from the capital for next year, the 900 line, and then also whether we want to withdraw any money from the account for the elevator project for this year. So there's a few things that need to be. And I made this note for myself down. Where should we put it? That was it. Dave. So we mentioned before. No, that wasn't that. The question came up when we were talking yesterday. In what account? I mean, we have it covered in the budget. A line item in the budget. But to what bank account should the rent coming from 110 go to? Should it stay in operating? Should it go in the capital side, or should it go in, or should we put it in reserves to make up for the money we took out of the account to buy the darn unit in the first
I
place?
think we put it in reserve.
So put it in reserves. That's what I was thinking everybody would
I would
want.
agree, yeah.
So put it back to from where it came.
So we're starting.
We've
So
reinvested part of our reserves in.
So
real estate.
Elisa needs to know that as we receive that rent for 110.
So we'll need to do a transfer for the rentals already.
Yeah, she can either do it
That's
month.
easy enough.
I mean,
We'll do it every month.
do it every month, easy enough. Yeah, then fine.
We'll do one to catch up.
Yeah.
When she gets back from vacation.
When she gets, she left for Fiji today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's some pretty glorious vacations, doesn't she? She goes, not screw around.
She's an avid scuba diver, and she loves to go to places like that. She told me this is her second or third time there.
I think so.
Yeah, and she says she loves it there. I said, man, I got to put that on my list.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's capital reserves. Still some things to fill in there. We'll try to get that done by end of today, or before we get to hard decision time tomorrow. All right, so rental program, front desk, last sheet.
Can we talk, what's the benefit of doing $90,000 to the elevator this year versus not?
If you don't put it in, it's going to have to come out of this year's money.
Well, it'll come out of.
It's got to come out of whatever money we generate this year. I mean, next year.
Next year, yeah.
Next year, yeah.
But, okay,
Yeah.
which would, we just have to transfer more money out of reserves
bear in
next year to
mind,
cover
I
it.
mean, if you look at that, right now, we projected a $781,371 balance in our reserves for the end of this year. That isn't happening because we had to pay to buy 110.
Yep.
So our balance is now going to fall very short of that.
Right.
695, 499. So that makes the question a little more difficult to make. Do we want to pull more money out of reserves? I mean, we can just say, well, let's don't pull money out of reserves, but then let's don't put any in either.
Joe, is the question, we either want to spend money from reserves that has been accumulated over the years on the elevator project, or do we want to take the elevator project at our current year assessments?
Right.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is there any financial benefit to the association by paying them in November versus paying them in January?
Paying one in November and one in January.
Oh,
50, well, as I understand it, we have to put down 50% of the elevator fee or nothing. So, but I don't think we save any money by putting down 50% in November. I mean, they're not going to give us a discount by paying them in November versus January, but I don't know that for sure.
that's a separate question from what Joe was asking, but
Right, but the timing,
Well, they want a deposit, don't they?
Mhm.
When do they want the deposit?
When we sign the contract,
And that'll be,
when we decide to sign the contract. I mean, we're not, historically, I think they give us 45 days. But if we explain to them what we're,
Well,
you know,
if
we
we
just
want
get
it done in the fall, we gotta get in their queue, right? Get the parts ordered and all that stuff.
yeah,
So when do we have to hammer out a contract in order for that to get done?
we could either do it December or early January. I don't think that's going to make a difference.
So
But
it's-
we wouldn't want to go past January.
So it's within the next
couple of months.
couple of months.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's when they're gonna want the deposit.
Yeah.
Well, we did that on the previous project, but I don't think I think we pulled the deposit right out of capital. I don't think we went to reserves to get the deposit.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we
Yeah.
just yesterday, took the money,
Relieved
That
it,
transfer
relieved
was
it,
today.
yeah.
took the money out of reserves, so we left it in reserves all year.
Yeah.
Because we had good cash flow.
Right.
And moved it in just now, so we still had that money in, it's in the Bank of San Juan's, and we don't get a lot of interest there, but it was still drawing interest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Answer your question?
Well, yeah, I think what I hear, we're not yet ready, we don't have we're not ready to sign a contract yet. I know Dave was negotiating just yesterday. So the question is, you know, if you're going to have that done in the next 30 days and we get 45 days to pay them, we want to show it this year or next year. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. Makes our reserves look a little better on December 31st if we wait until January to pay it.
And
But I
it
don't,
wasn't budgeted this year, so.
and it wasn't budgeted.
Yeah, it's not budgeted for
I
this
think we
year.
wait.
It won't go out until,
We pay it
it
when we
won't
have
go,
to pay it.
I agree.
it
Yeah.
wouldn't be paid out until January at the earliest anyway. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so front desk, rental programs,
So did we answer the question? Do we want to include that, the transfer from reserves for the elevator in 2020?
we haven't answered it yet. It's still highlighted there. Okay, so I went over this budget at length with Heather. We've taken in considerably more revenue this year than we budgeted for. So let's see, 406 contribution to general fund. This is the flat amount that we put towards the front desk funding. It has increased year over year since the inception of the new pool and fitness facility. This is basically a number that fills in what we need to balance the budget for the rental program versus when all the other revenue streams, the three below it, have been established. The contribution from rental units is a 473 is a fixed amount. It's $30 a month for anybody renting their unit out. So that one's pretty constant. The long-term rental 472 fees, that remains fairly constant because it's a fixed amount on long-term rentals on a monthly basis. The variable one is 460, which has been based on which was once $25 a night charged as a pseudo resort fee by Heather's operation for any rental, for each night's of rental. And that has come down because correspondingly Glacier has been charging, according to our contract, started at $17 a night in the first year. It went to $21 a night this year, and it goes up to 25. We've kind of had the agreement with Heather that we'll cap the total resort fee at $30 a night. So 25 plus 5 is 30. So now we're down. So this number, you can see 460. It was budgeted at 45,000. We actually got 62. But Heather projects that based on the number of room nights and the $5 a night assessed, we're only going to get 29,000 on that line this coming year. So that's why in order to make the budget balance. 406 has increased every year, and now it's up to close to $75,000. But this was the plan all along. We knew we were going to end up here. So that's where that is. That's the revenues, expenses.
That's right, Joe, just to cycle back, the number of night stays then, is Heather projecting flat, no change year to year?
I don't know if that's I can't recall if that's a difference from last year or not.
What's the what's the per night fee in 2019?
9.
So on my calculator, then we need 62,321 divided by 9, right? So that'd be 6,900. So that makes it look like an 1,100 night decrease, if that logic is right.
I talked to her about this yesterday. That's the number. She's going to be here tomorrow. If you want to table this at the moment and
we could just
call her
email.
in here tomorrow and have
We
her
could just
explain.
email and say, hey,
Yeah.
this is 5,800. Where's this number coming from? It's,
Yeah.
1,100 less. It would seem like it would continue to go up
That's what I was
Yes.
thinking.
based on the trending that we've seen.
Right. And
She
conversely,
might just be being very conservative in her numbers to
Yeah.
be safe.
Well, you can tell she tends to be conservative because look at the
Yeah.
look at the budget from last year and look at what the performance was.
well, yeah. And the other thing, and it's not a big number, but I think the long-term rental, rolling over that number is probably the wrong. The number of long-term rentals has gone down pretty precipitously. I don't know that trend has stopped. So I would
It's
roll
hovered.
the.
It's
It's been as high as 45.
Yeah, but it's never gotten lower than 25. It's been right at the mid-20s for many years, and then it jumped up, and now it's settled back down again. I don't know what caused that. I don't have an answer to that, but 25 is about the number of long-term rental units.
Okay, and that's the right math. 25 times whatever the monthly fee is times
Yeah.
12 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we obviously didn't make it this year, and I thought we started the year with more than 25. So, but again, it's only a couple $1,000.
So I think it's 45 a month. So
I think you're right.
we should both know that, Eric.
Yeah.
We get charged.
I know. But you don't get 100% occupancy, so
Yeah,
it
it's
does.
45.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 13.5.
Yeah.
I'm just going to email Heather now. That way she can move it
Yeah,
back.
good idea. I don't have my email turned on because it keeps popping up on the screen. Okay, so admin expenses, Heather's contract fee. We talked about whether or not her fee should get reduced because of the transition, but we figured during the transition for this year, she's probably going to be doing pretty much what she's always done, maybe start to taper that off. But so we're going to leave her, we told her we're going to leave her fee unchanged for this year for managing the front desk. Marketing, don't have a budget number in there. Did you have a discussion with Heather by any chance?
Not yesterday, no. But let's, I've keep in mind in that number is the newsletter, which, it would cost us probably $750 to $100,000 to do each newsletter anyway. So that needs to be accounted into. But let's table that and we'll deal with it when we get into the session.
Yeah, if it's going to be
There's some
news,
other things that I think are going to come out of that with the
Okay.
transition and whatnot.
because if it's going to be newsletter, that's not really a rental. That should be on our budget, not Heather's.
This is gray regardless.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big number.
Yep.
We obviously under budgeted for 580, and we adjust for that for next year's budget, put in $3,500. Office equipment, pretty much right on. Ski shuttle, we won't even get any money for that until starting in January for December, so that'll all go into January's We only collected 3518 last year, even though it was a good ski year. So I'm not sure why we're budgeting 5500, but that's what Heather thought. We didn't. I expected DMR to ask for another increase on that, but they didn't. That might be something else we want to discuss with Heather over see her. Why are we keeping that up at 55 when we're even in a good ski year we're only collecting 3500?
Yeah.
We're only spending 3500.
Well, you should have something in November, December, I would think.
No, it doesn't get billed
It's a
until
contract.
January.
Okay.
I mean, there's virtually nothing in November, and December is just all Christmas, pretty much, December 15th on, and we don't get the bill until January.
Okay.
So it doesn't get paid until next year. So actually, that 3518 that you see there year to date, that actually includes December's billing that was done in January of this year. So coffee service in the lobby, pretty straightforward. If we want to keep doing that. And salaries will defer until closed session. And 3 hours later, we got through all of it. So I'll go back to the beginning, and if you want to have discussions on anything, either when we reconvene tomorrow.
Well, I think we need to.
You want to have the closed session?
I think we need to have a closed session because that's going to define anything else we do.
Okay.
That's the logical next step.
So for all practical purposes, this workshop is done for today, correct? We're just going to go over the closed session stuff now.
Yeah. The how much? What was? We don't have a balance sheet thing, but what was our balance in Alpine?
Tommy can tell us, can you? Current balance in Alpine Bank?
Yeah.
227,000.
So it's under 250 again. Where did we have the overage when we went through that?
Oh, no, hang on. I'm sorry. That's the Alpine's operating account, which includes the rental. There's also the separate capital account of Alpine, which is another 46. So that's 273.
So we're a little over.
Yeah, I just wonder if.
I mean, that's small exposure.
No, I know, but we're not getting any interest on it. So
no.
How much do we need to keep in there? I guess is where it's going.
Keep in where?
Keep an Alpine at any given point in time.
Well, that's all. I mean, that's all cash moving in, cash moving out.
Okay.
I mean,
but is it appropriate to keep that much of a buffer? Because I might be misunderstanding, but I heard you say earlier that we used to have a running starting balance of 50K.
That's what Sandy Elliott always liked to have.
Right. So.
And right now, with the way we've budgeted this, we have about what, Tommy, 80
something short of 90.
So I mean, if we want to put more money in the beginning balance and knock that back down to 50, we can do that.
Well, I'm not saying necessarily 50. I just think we should keep it sub 250, obviously, and optimize the earning power of the money if we can.
So you're talking about two different numbers, so that it sub 50. I mean, if we took 25, if we increase that number by 25, we'd be ultimately, effectively knocking that balance down by $25,000 and keeping it at 250. But bear in mind, it fluctuates.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it moves up and down all the time.
I just wrote it down.
There's going to be months. There's going to be times like right after, like that number will probably get my thoughts process straight here. We bill quarterly, right? So the bank account reflects probably a fairly low amount right about now because all of the billings have been paid, should have been paid by October 31st, right?
Yeah.
So if a lot of people waited to pay their bill until right at the end, then the bank account would ramp up. As we spend that money, it's going to come down. People are going to get their first quarter 2020 bills in December. Some pay early, some wait all the way to the end. But in that couple of months period, that balance may drop down.
I'm looking at last year's bank balances.
I'm just saying it fluctuates.
Okay, that's fair.
So
I just brought it up.
We
Good.
actually hit negative numbers in the operating account for just a few days at the end of April before some big deposits were made toward the end of April as the March.
April is when,
Right.
April is,
Yeah.
end of April is
So-
the deadline for first quarter billing.
I mean, you've got some fun
Second
on
quarter
outstanding
billing.
checks and
Yeah,
stuff, so
yeah.
the
It's not a
actual
big
bank
deal.
account didn't go negative, but
Okay. All right. Okay.
if everything had cleared,
Um,
it might have
so-
been. So I think our levels are appropriate. I don't argue with Sandy about much, but I really think 100,000 is a more appropriate number. I mean, it's still less than a month. It's less than one whole month's revenue at 100,000 for a cushion.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Now everything else I have here is more executive or non-executive closed session.
Okay. Just talk a little bit about the 5-year capital program, just so we have those thoughts in our mind before we walk out. I'm not going to bother to put it up on the screen, and Gary could do that, but in round numbers, after Dave and I have massaged the numbers again this week, the outlook for capital expenditures is about $200,000 per year for the next 4 years. And then the 5th year, that number jumps up to about 900,000, and that includes round numbers $500,000 for the roof and some significant expenditures on plumbing. And I will tell you that I'm very smart about what's going to happen next month, let alone 5 years out. But just so we have a flavor that, in terms of dealing with our reserves, we don't get a vacation. There are continuing needs to work on different projects around here, and we can discuss those in more detail if you want to. But the capital needs don't go away anytime in the next 5 years.
Okay.
And I will say that Dave and I more things got pushed back than got pushed forward as we did the last 5 years. One big number is $175,000. That's not 2020, but that's 2021 for carpeting and interior on the lodge. We had that in 2 pieces, 2 years apart. We elected to move all that together in the thought that maybe we would actually save a little money, but probably not much. But it's probably getting time for that refurbishment to take place in the lodge. Jerry, tell us how you feel about the lodge and the carpet. It's just a flavor of what's coming our way. No huge numbers, but it doesn't ever go to zero, at least not in the 5-year outlook.
So, Eric, I do have a question though. I know you've been tracking this stuff and projecting and been very deliberative about that. If you look historically at what our capital expenditures have been and what they're projected to be over some period of time, 5 to 10 years, do you then know how much we need to contribute to the reserves every year to make sure that on average we stay in good shape?
What our policy says, we actually have a board policy, it's out on the website, is that we look out and we try and anticipate and fund over a 5-year period. So it does follow the pattern of our expenditures. So when you've got a 5-year number that looks way out of whack, if that turns out to be a real number, the 5-year numbers, call it 900,000, then we already need in 2020 to start putting away 150,000, if you will, for that number 5 years out.
So that number,
mentally,
150,000, you've actually already calculated or estimated.
Well, mentally, our policy says we need to consider that. It doesn't say we have to do it, but we have to consider it.
But it sounds like it would be prudent.
And I think you just said 200,000 4 times and 500,000, which would be 1.3 million.
No, there's 500,000 is just the roof. Actually, the 5th year is 900,000, of which 500,000 is the roof.
4, 6, 8, 7, 1.7 million.
Yes.
Divided by 5 years would be 300 and something thousand per year.
Yeah. Again, in real ballpark numbers. Just
All right, Heather responded on the shuttle. She said she always budgets 5,500 because it's a wild card and there's no free herd riders, so there'll be more paid riders now.
Okay.
Because it's more herd units.
All right.
And then on the other one, so I'm not quite following. She said she just took
Well, the other one was the
5,800 room nights that we calculated.
revenue for on 460, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So she said, I thought she just took I thought I took the actual amount that was projected in 19 and just cut it almost in half since it reduced from 9 to 5.
So if the actual amount, or well, that's what she did, because the actual amount, well, it's not really cut it by half, it's 40%.
Well, it would be
So 62.
4 nines.
So, yeah. So 62, 321.
Without rounding, it would have been 34,622. So she's, well, let's see, that's less than. We're dropping from 9 to 5, right? I think she dropped from 9 to 4, maybe. She may have taken 4 nines instead of 5 nines. I think it's
Well, it should be 40%, right? I mean, it should.
Yeah,
We should be
40%.
realizing 60% of whatever we got this year, right? Yeah.
56.
So let's see. So that's 62, 321 times 0.6. So that should be more like $37,000 instead of 29. You said it was more like 56%, Tom?
something like that. I just did that in my head, but I'm coming up when I actually do the math. 34,622 would be the expected amount if we have the same number of nights and reduce the fee from 9 to 5.
So let's change that to 35,000.
29, yeah, 34, 35.
Yeah, put it at 35,000. And then I'm changing note to 56% of 2019.
So if I can distill that last discussion, then what I think I'm hearing is that our short-term rentals are up versus last year. Our long-term rentals are down, and the association is going to absorb about $20,000 more of front desk expenses than they did in 2019.
Yeah, let me fix this number now. So that's
One other
6,000
piece.
less. So
There has been some cash that was considered. It's actually in the operating checking account, but it's considered to be the rental program's cash. You can see at the beginning of the 2019 budget it was 32,000.
So right now,
And we've been using that up too, and we
Yeah.
expect to finish using that up this year.
yeah. So right now with that surplus cash that Tommy's talking about, and the change we just made in the account 460, the general fund contribution to the rental program will be about 15,000 higher than it was last year.
What number do you have there, Joe?
68,330. You can see it right there. Turn this a little bit so you guys can see it better. Trying to push that back to the wall. All right, there we go.
Y'all have good insurance, or? Not saying anything's gonna happen, I'm just asking.
That's like those old pumps. You don't move them very much, they get sticky.
Set the guy with a bad leg up there to do that. That's not a good plan.
Not a good plan.
Okay.
All right, we
So that's a little bit better looking number now.
so are we ready to stop recording?
Yeah.